good morning, afternoon, or evening, and welcome to the Bloody Disgusting Network. The following show is just horrifying. Beware.
My friendship to all of you precludes my involvement with any one of you. But if you wanna make love, then I do too, and I'll be right there behind you. All in the name of oh, all in the name of oh, all in the name of
Greetings, constant listeners, and welcome to another episode of The Losers Club. This week, we are taking a long walk through the woods and praying that our batteries don't die as we tackle Stephen King's 1999 novel, The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. I am your host, Jen 2, The Rage Adams, and I love hiking, so I cannot wait to set out on this trail. But unlike Trisha, I am not alone, thank goodness. I've got 3 other losers joining me today, so let's head out of Nashville and follow the trail north to the woods of Chicago. Who is that hanging in the clearing? Do you like to hike? And what was your first experience with The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon?
Hey there, this is Michael. Monroeville Mall is 801 miles southwest of the Appalachian Trail in Maine. Rothman. This is my first time reading The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. I had always seen it on shelves ever since it actually hit the shelves. I remember actually being at like the B. Dalton or the Walden books and just seeing it there. And then especially when the pop-up came out, a few years later. This is right in my Q zone because I love survival horror. One of the things I found out in the last year or so, while really digging deep into horror now that we're doing it full time, is that is a subgenre that is probably my favorite. It's one at the top. So, for some reason, I never realized that that's what this is. It's just a survivalist story. And I don't know, just really love it. This was my first time going into it. I'm really excited to talk about it. I loved hiking. I really enjoyed hiking. I've hiked up and down the Grand Canyon. I've gone to many places. I've threw up on Half Dome. So my vomit from 20 something years ago is probably somewhere in the soil up there. But after reading this book, I for sure as hell am never going to forget bug spray. So, yeah, definitely changes my mind on that one. But yeah, excited to talk about this.
Yeah, and you said that you got the pop-up book, right?
I did, yeah.
Is that what you read? Can you read the pop-up book?
No. That would be hilarious if I did the book. We just did the book.
Yeah, we all read the 300-page book, and you read the pop-up.
Yeah, it's like, well,
10 minutes.
Yeah, it's like,
where'd
wow.
you get that quote?
It's like, wow, you guys are really getting into her head a lot. Like, for me, it just seemed like she was going from point A to point C.
In her underwear? What?
Yeah.
Do they
oh my
have
God,
the whole
what would a pop-up look like of that?
It just sprays out at you when you open the page. Like,
God.
Like,
you will get wet if you open this book.
No, fortunately, that is not the case. It's very PG, very kid-friendly, but it is really well done. I'll go into it a little bit, I guess. But
is it the full text or not? It's not.
No. God, no. No, it's like piecemeal stuff. It's mostly like the gist of each inning. So it's really just delightfully made, and I couldn't believe how like hands-on it is too. I mean, you can like pull the tabs. There's like little wheels that you spin. I mean, it's a pop-up book, so it makes sense. But yeah,
Ka is a wheel.
Ka is a wheel.
Well, that's true.
And so is Tom Gordon. So
yes, also true. Yeah,
the Wheeler, his nickname.
Yeah. Well, there's someone else watching us from the woods, and we just heard his voice. Who else is joining us from Chicago in the wilderness?
It's Justin Sugartit Gerber.
Nice.
Thrilled to be back. This is my first book episode, I think, since The Langoliers.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Is that 2019?
It's 2019, yeah.
Mid 2019, so it's been almost 2.5 years. I'm happy to come back for a book that I've always enjoyed. This is my second or third time reading it, actually. I think it's my second or third time reading it because it is such a breezy read. You know, I mean, there's obviously some heavy themes within, but considering the other books that King was putting out around this time, not only just with quality, but with length, 300 pages seems like it could be, you could read it in a day, you know?
Yeah.
So I've always enjoyed this book, and I'm happy to come back to talk a little King, a little baseball, which I also love very much. So there you go.
Do you also enjoy hiking?
I loved, especially over the last year when there was literally nothing to do in the world, I would go on these really, really long walks, and I did love doing that. Obviously, iPods and iPhones have replaced the Walkman, which we'll probably get into later on. But I did love kind of just zoning out and going on long walks and feeling like I'm getting my exercise in for the day. I did grow up as a kid in Florida and Arizona. So there was a lot of mountain climbing in Arizona when I was a kid. And I haven't done that in decades. And I loved doing that. I'm sure I was in much better shape 30 years ago than I am today. But for Florida, I don't really remember going on a lot of hikes in Florida. At that point, I was just doing a lot of, I think, biking. Like the movie Rad, like really freestyle, ollies. Ollies are a thing, right?
Yeah.
No helmet, no bike helmet, obviously. But there's a lot of talk about, bugs in this and getting bitten. And I've got some stories I'm sure I'll be able to tell with my living in Florida and whatnot. So,
I can't wait. I love it.
I could feel it,
Bug juice. Just put that out there. Yeah.
Yeah. I hate bugs. And yeah, I live around a lot more bugs now, so that's been great. But we've got one more loser to pick up, and I'm actually very bad with geography, so I'm not quite sure if this loser is north of us or east of us. But let's go to New York, and who is waiting for us in the jungle of New York?
This is Dan, the girl who loved Dan Caffrey. That's the only nickname I could think of.
Wow.
Not a lot of alliteration to be had, which is my criteria for nicknames usually. Yeah, I don't know if I think I'm slightly, I don't know though, because Chicago is a lot colder than New York is. So I don't know if I'm north. I'm definitely east, but I don't know how far north I am. So my experience with this book, I remember very distinctly. I was on spring break in Cocoa Beach, Florida, at a condo with my grandparents. And this book had just come out. And this is coming off A Bag of Bones, which obviously is this mammoth, very horror with a capital H kind of book. And I remember seeing this come out and being excited, like, oh, and the new Stephen King. And like you guys said, it felt kind of slight and almost disappointing, just not reading it, just looking at it. I was like, oh, what's this shit? Like, following a little girl through the woods, give me some ghosts, So I actually did not read it, even though it just came out. Then I bought American Psycho at the Walden Books instead and read that, which did scratch my horror itch by the poolside spring break when I was 14 or 15.
I'm sure there was a lot of scratching going on.
Yeah. No, I remember reading American Psycho. I think the movie had just come out around then. I remember reading the book and just, I still love that book, but just being like, this is too much, but I loved it.
I'm just imagining you on the side of the pool, like Clay and Less Than Zero, with your fucking shades on. You got like a cigarette. You're like all greased up, and you got American Psycho on your belly. Like, but it would be hilarious if you take that image and then also put the pop-up book of Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, and you're reading like this
deciding
giant...
between the two of them. Well, no, it's funny. So I saw that. I unfortunately don't have the pop-up book. I should have bought it back when I could have. I saw it in like a Books A Million or something not long after that, and was like, oh, this actually looks cooler. But I still didn't read the book until or probably around 2007 or 8, when my wife challenged me to read all the Stephen King books that I hadn't read in a certain period of time, and Tom Gordon was one of them, and I loved it. And I actually think I really would have loved it had I read it back then too. I weirdly I'm not going to take Jen's term, but Jen used a term for this book over text that I thought was so accurate. Yeah. And I feel like, as a kid, I probably would have really loved this because I would have related to the young person having an adventure in the woods and all that. As far as hiking goes, I lived growing up in Florida. I lived in front of a nature preserve called Starkey Park, and there's a trail right behind my house. So I would go through there a lot. So pretty much every day to walk my dog, and you would see, armadillos and wild boars and alligators and all that. It was a pretty laid out trail though. So there wasn't ever any danger of getting lost in it. It was the 3-mile loop. So you would just do like a loop and see all this stuff. And we hiked a lot when we lived in Atlanta. I like hiking. I'm not like a big camping guy. I don't love, I don't love like being in a tent overnight or anything.
That's how you get murdered.
Yeah, like I like the woods. I don't really love sleeping in the woods. I do like cabins. I'll totally go in the woods and stay in a nice cabin with internet. You can watch the movies at night and everything. But yeah, so I'd say I'm like a moderate hiking fan. I do like being in the outdoors and seeing wildlife.
When you say cabin, do you mean like like a Marriott suite cabin? Here you go.
Yeah,
it's right. It's close to the hotel, and
glamping. No, we went. Susan and I went to. I hate that word. Susan and I went to. Talk about Trump country, Helen, Georgia, for her birthday during the pandemic, because it was secluded and it's a quaint little village, like a German village, although you walk through and you see a bunch of Trump flags in the window and stuff.
She wanted to be closer to her people, obviously.
yeah. My wife and I have very different political ideologies.
No.
Hold
Hold on, no, that's
Well,
not
I see her red hat in the background. It's
Right.
like,
Yeah, it's like
on,
that,
on the
yeah.
coat rack.
the girl who loved Donald Trump.
Yeah. But we stayed on the outskirts of Helen in a pretty secluded cabin in the woods, and that was really fun. So it was in the woods. It just had Wi-Fi. I want my Wi-Fi. I want my running water. I want my power. What can I say? That's what I like.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of running toilets. You know,
Oh, yeah.
Strong
Yeah,
supporter of having those whenever I need it.
Yeah, locking doors, you know.
Yeah,
Fam.
locking doors. That isn't just like a little what do you call the hook and eye thing? It's like on screen doors. It's like not a lot. You could
Right,
yeah.
yeah.
Or even like zippers on tents. Like what's that gonna do?
It's like
I
this is
know.
fabric,
Bugs, maybe.
scissors, you know.
I will say, when it comes to camping and cabins and whatnot, I actually don't mind like the sleeping in the tents and whatnot. It's exactly what you said, Justin. It's the lack of having a irrigation system that can deal with plumbing and stuff like that. Because I've actually got like I mentioned the Half Dome thing and throwing up. I got a bad stomach flu when I was out west. My parents used to just send me out to these places because they didn't want me hanging around the house during the summer, and say like, all right, get the fuck out of here. And so like they sent me this one like weird camp that was like a road rules type thing where you like get in a van and you just keep going from one state to another. And like, so we did the Four Corners one summer, and I remember getting sick then, and then also the next year when I went back again, because you're just out on the road, you're eating random shit all the time. And I will say like the biggest, there's definitely been some tense, nightmarish situations in my life, but I don't think I've ever had as much high anxiety as getting the stomach flu when there is just absolutely nowhere to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Like it was terror, like absolute terror fuel. And I imagine we'll be talking about that because of a certain section in this book.
Yep.
But
It is apt. Yeah. I don't remember the first time that I read this book, but I think it was probably, I know I didn't read it when it came out because like, kind of like you were saying, Dan, like I just wasn't really drawn to it. It didn't seem like it seemed like kind of woodsy. It's the kind of book now that I would be really drawn to. And it's very much my jam, but I think I was just really wanting like that horror itch to be scratched. But then I think this was my third time reading it and I love it. I think it's great. It's really breezy. I think it's really uplifting. We're going to talk about, I've got a lot of thoughts about the themes and kind of where it fits in King's canon, but I also love the woods. Hiking is one of my favorite things to do. I do not like to sleep in the woods because again, like I said, that's how you get murdered. But I love, like we live close to Gatlinburg, which is in the Smoky Mountains, and they have the best hiking there. We're actually going the weekend before Christmas. So I'm super excited.
Nice and chilly.
I know. Yeah. I'm hoping that we can, get some good hiking in, although kids are coming too, so you can't do the really good hikes there.
Don't let them go use the bathroom by themselves. Whatever.
I know. I don't want them going on a trail ever after reading this. And I also have some thoughts about kids because my daughter is 9 years old now, so but yeah, we are going to be staying in what they call a chalet in Chalet Village, which is nice, and it's got a hot tub and it's got like TVs and a pool table, I think. So I'm very excited. And then we're going to go hiking and get, eaten by bugs and stuff. But I remember I was doing the first time I did a solo hike in Gatlinburg, it was this big loop. So it's not like you go to a destination on the trail and then you come back. And it went on a lot further than I thought. And I was on the trail the whole time. But I just kept thinking, when is this going to end? And it started to get like a lot rougher. Like it wasn't a part of the trail that people go on very often. And I was walking through this like village of vacation homes that they had some kind of land dispute, so they were all abandoned, and like it was so creepy because the windows were all broken, and I was listening to Needful Things as I was walking through it, and it was very creepy. So
Leland Gaunt pokes his head in his having a good time out here.
I know. I was like, oh shit. Yeah, but I survived.
I see you need a window. I can trade.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Would you like to get back to the path soon?
Say hello to my gnome.
I was waiting for someone to mention the goblin or the gnome.
The goblin
he's fresh off the set of Beetlejuice.
All right. Well, so we've got the gang all here. So let us embark down the trail and let's read the synopsis first. And so I've got, on a 6-mile hike on the main New Hampshire branch of the Appalachian Trail, 9-year-old Trisha McFarlane quickly tires of the constant bickering between her older brother Pete and her recently divorced mother. But when she wanders off by herself and then tries to catch up by attempting a shortcut, she becomes lost in a wilderness maze full of peril and terror. Ugh. As night falls, Trisha has only her ingenuity as a defense against the elements and only her courage and faith to withstand her mounting fears. For solace, she tunes her Walkman to broadcasts of Boston Red Sox baseball games and follows the gritty performances of her hero, relief pitcher Tom Gordon. And when her radio's reception begins to fade, Trisha imagines that Tom Gordon is with her, protecting her from an all-too-real enemy who has left a trail of slaughtered animals and mangled trees in the dense, dark woods. I think that's a pretty good synopsis
Very
of
good
it.
synopsis.
Sells me. Yeah.
I know. Yeah, I like the just like throwing in at the last minute. Oh yeah, it rips the heads off deers. Yeah, we've got the same. I think, right, Mike? The same copy.
Yeah,
So
I got this actually on a hike.
Oh,
I went
really?
to, my first trip post quarantine. I guess you can't say post pandemic because everyone loses their mind. But I got it during a hike in Durango, and there just happened to be this really cute bookstore that was next to the river. I think it was the Antoine River or something. But I posted photos actually on our socials. And I guess in hindsight, it makes total sense that I picked up this little book there. Like it makes, I figured because I have the first edition, I didn't want to mark it up. So I use this as like my markup. I always get the paperback ones, but I thought that's kind of, in hindsight, that's kind of cool. I got it when I was actually walking around. Fortunately, I didn't get lost. So,
Yeah.
I have the most recent edition, which has Trisha on the cover with her, I think she's got a backwards hat on. That's the most recent one. She's kind of looking off into the distance. I actually like it. I remember how misleading this new run of covers has been when it comes to the roadwork cover. Makes it look like some like action movie, like falling down, like
makes it look good,
like a standoff in town, and you're like, oh, this is not actually what happens at all.
It's a clever marketing.
It's not as misleading as the roadwork one.
What would be an appropriate cover for roadwork then? Just like an office room or something like that?
Just some guy at home
Somebody asleep.
yelling at himself.
It'd be Barton Dawes just sitting in his fucking easy chair with a bottle of champagne, popping it open. That would be that's the only thing I remember is the gross champagne pop from that novel.
Yeah.
Awful.
And just being annoyed in general,
Yeah, he saw God. That book just my loathing of that book just grows as the podcast goes on.
Get ready, Caffrey, for New Line's adaptation produced by Andy Muschietti, if that still comes to fruition. I don't think it ever will, but yeah, I keep laughing at the idea of that, like in an age where IP is king and you have to like have the most like ambitious story or craziest stories and hooks and stuff. Roadwork.
Yeah.
I feel like too, outside of this podcast, people speak of it pretty fondly, but no one can ever say why they like it. I think they remember the cool looking original cover with Barton and the gun, and they think that's what the book is, but it's actually not really.
Yeah.
I mean, that is like far and away my least favorite King book. I mean, it's really the only one I would have a hard time revisiting again. I think all the other ones I'm down to read. I know we're not here to talk about roadwork today, but
oh, absolutely. I think 3 of those 4 Bachman books from that era are actually pretty awful. That, Rage, and Running Man. Anyway, we are. I guess we are, like you said, we are here to talk about.
That's true. We're talking about the
girl who loved Barton Dawes.
Hitchhiker.
Well, and so let's talk about the girl who loved Tom Gordon. And to do that, I think we need to take the trail to the Derry Public Library.
Mike Hanlon, if you see...
Excuse me, sir. Do you have Prince Albert in a can? You do? Well, you better let the poor guy out.
Yeah, Mike Hanlon, that I had to go, that I had to get cleaned up. Tell him I'll see him tonight.
Get out! Last chance, Tosha. Get out! Excuse me now.
So The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon is the 41st book published by Stephen King. It was his 35th novel and the 29th under his own name. And I know, like, I've read them all. Like, I know how many books he wrote, but just like reading that back to back, it's like, geez, that's a lot of books,
Yeah.
He's probably 40 since then.
I know. Yeah. What is this, like 22 years ago? I think if my math is correct. And it was released by Scribner on April 6th, 1999.
Spring break. Decided this one.
Woo!
Memories coming back.
That was my senior year spring break, and I was not reading it on the beach of Panama City. And then a pop-up was released in 2004. And Mike, we talked about that one a little bit more. Is there anything else you want to say about the pop-up?
I mean, I think it's worth getting, and I was actually surprised because I looked on eBay, and I've been breaking the rules. You know, I've stressed multiple times in this podcast that when I like to get my first editions or I'm looking for hardcovers and old ones, I like to go to the actual store. Look, I was pressed for time, and all the bookstores around Chicago have just been like cleaned out. I don't know if it's just the pandemic, but like I couldn't find it. And then Justin, you were trying to order it too.
Well,
right?
here's the thing: it's actually no longer for sale.
Oh, I was going to put it on my Christmas.
And I was trying to support my local independent bookstore, so I went to their website and it said it was available. So I ordered it, and then 2 days later they said, actually, this book is no longer being published. So they did give me a full refund, which I appreciate.
They're like, we do have a first edition of Roadwork if you would like that.
Signed
that would be a
by
lot
the
of money.
publisher,
That would-
Stephen King. And
You could sell that shit for a lot.
Oh,
of
those-
money.
Exactly.
those
We'll
box
actually give you
paperbacks
money
are
if you take it.
Yeah.
So
they'll be
at that point, I
pleased.
figured I didn't want to spend, God knows how much on. I'm not sure how much you ended up spending, Mike, but I was like, I'll just let Mike's getting it. He can talk about it.
It was $18 on eBay.
wow,
I was
that's not bad.
surprised,
Oh, wow.
and the guy who wrapped it really nicely. Like it's like a pristine copy. Although I will say this Demon Dog I'm watching right now had his eye on it, and I was like, I don't think so, buddy. Like you're not gonna rip through that. You already ripped through my weekend. But
Back off.
yeah, exactly. I was like, get the hell out of here. But it's worth picking up. I mean, especially if you're a King completist. I feel like it's really nice. Like I do now kind of wish in hindsight that I did just read that for this book episode, which would have been hilarious. Like, oh, where are you at now with this? Do you get any of this?
On page 8.
But it does go in depth. Like one of the things that's really cool about the pop-up is that they have these little sleeves. Like I actually had to sit with it for a little bit because I was like, well, wait, does this peel back? Like, oh wow, it does. And like, you have to like actually like they have like almost like little mini manila folders on each page, and you kind of have to like pull them open, and then you have little flip books that has like all the writings in it, and it does squeeze in a lot of King's prose, which I imagine he rearranged for this pop-up, and it's cute, but it's also like really creepy too. Like the bear at the end is like really fucking eerie. Like look at this.
You gotta go do like a reels on Instagram, Mike, and just go through it and post it.
Yeah, I mean, because it's like, look at that fucking jaw. It's creepy as hell.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, you see it kind of maggots and stuff.
Yeah.
I have a no joke, a Dracula pop-up book that we found in a little library a while back, but like very faithful to Bram Stoker's original novel. So it has Quincy Morris in it. It just makes Dracula like this old parasite rather than some romantic Lothario. And I read it this Halloween, and it's crazy. Like I open it, and like a whole castle rises out of the book, and
That's so cool.
And same thing, and like that bear, there's something like that with a wolf. And I have to read it delicately because I'm worried it might get ruined. But I'm pretty amazed by the pop-up skill. And the same thing, they have these little pockets you unfold that actually contains like pretty big stretches of the actual prose itself.
Even if that was released like a year after the original Bram Stoker's Dracula came out.
It's like 18.
It's like really like before copyright existed. It's just like here's a book.
Because that was the technology. That was like
That's
the
all they
movie
had.
version.
Couldn't do anything
I
else.
bet they had pop-up books back in the 1800s, right? It's got to be an old form. I used to have Return of the Jedi pop-up book in the 80s. That was pretty cool.
Yeah,
you could pull a little thing, and the net would come down and get Chewbacca. That was great.
I think I had that too, Dan.
Yeah, it's pretty popular. I think. Yeah.
I just love the idea of like if it was released right after Dracula, you have like an old man that's sitting there being like, well, the war was tough, and talking about like Civil War, and it's like, shut up, Gramps, and it's just like pulls like the Dracula pop-up book out, and it's
You think
like,
that's bad? Look at this parasitic monster.
yeah.
in detail. It's awesome. But
It's interesting to think about making a pop-up book for this, though. I think that's not like the first thing that would come to my mind, But I guess this is like could be considered YA, which the other one, what's the other one? Eyes of the Dragon, I think, is probably the only other King I would really consider YA.
Yeah.
Other than maybe The Long Walk, I think, and Stand By Me. Or the
yeah,
Body,
those
sorry.
could work. I feel like those could work as a pop-up. Maybe like throw in like Gerald's Game in there also. That could be a really fun
Oh my
pop-up book.
God.
It's just the same pop-up over and over and over
Yeah.
again with different like fold
Who's at the door now? And it's like,
Jen,
why
why don't you say what you called Tom Gordon this book over text? Because I thought that this was so accurate. Because we're talking about Gerald's Game right now. I thought this was such a good observation.
agree.
What was it?
I called it Gerald's Game Jr.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. And I think the thing that, obviously there are two characters. Trisha's not stuck in the same place, but she is isolated for the majority. But what the strongest connection I really thought was like there's the tough Tootsie and there's Pepsi that she's hearing in her head, which is like the two characters that Jessie hears in her head. I keep getting Jessie and Gerald mixed up. But I think there's a lot of like, this is a very empowering book. I think it's very like female empowerment, but this one, I don't think it necessarily would have, like, I think this could work just as easily with a boy, but I love that it's a girl. And I think it's got a lot in common with, like, I kind of think of it might be as like a stealth eclipse novel, you know?
Yeah, that's what you had said. I like that take a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah, which I mean, and I don't know if the eclipse thing is just something that I'm creating, but I will stand by it. So the eclipse novels for me, I think, are Jesse's Game, Gerald's Game. Maybe it should be Jesse's Game. Okay?
Jesse's Game.
You know, it's like the Twilight books when they've got like the Edward versions of the books.
Yeah.
This is the same thing.
Yeah.
You got the Jesse version of Gerald's Game. It's a short story, but still.
That's right. Yeah, and it's basically the same. But I like Gerald's Game, Dolores Claiborne, Rose Madder, Insomnia, and then I think that's that stretch of writing. But it also falls in an interesting place in, I think, King's writing, because I feel like it's kind of a transition period for him where he's really thinking a lot about spirituality, and he's starting to move, I think, away from a lot of the more classic horror writing and into the more like introspective kind of stuff. And I mean, I think there's elements of classic horror here, and I think there's always been elements of introspection throughout all of his work. But this seems to be kind of like a little bit of a turning point around this period,
And it's technically, well, I guess Hearts in Atlantis which is a collection, is the last book before the big accident, right? Because that he publishes, because this is because it's Dreamcatcher technically is the next novel from here, but the next collection of books is going to be Hearts in Atlantis, which is why we're covering it in December. But this does feel like like almost like a foreshadowing of what's going to come in the next decade, but also sort of an end cap on an era.
Yeah.
And
some of the reviews that I found kind of mentioned that. Well, I'm sorry that Mike pulled for me.
Oh, go for it. Yeah.
Mentioned that that I wanted to read a couple of but some of the overall themes, and I wanted to get y'all's thoughts on this. We're talking about, is this scary? And I think they made a point to say this is a very scary book. But when I think about this, I don't think of it as like The Shining or like Salem's Lot, which I think, or Pet Sematary, which I think are like the scary ones, I think there's a lot of horrific elements, and the overall concept itself is scary. But what do y'all think? Do you think of this as a scary book?
I think it's scary in the context of when you look at other King books. This could happen to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't think we're going to be haunted by ghosts and blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. Kids coming back our children coming back from the dead and killing us. I don't think that's actually going to happen. That's scary in a different way. But this is scary in a realistic way. 100%.
I'm not like shaking my boots like I am when I read Pet Sematary or Salem's Lot, of course. But I think once she starts discovering the severed deer heads and the dead fox and all that, I guess once we get to the bear and before it's a bear and that's something following her in the woods, I actually do think it's in pretty straightforward horror realm from there. I mean, I did find it pretty ominous to have this thing watching her all the time. And I love that we don't clarify that it's a bear till the end. And you could argue, well, is it a bear the whole time, right? Like you mentioned Gerald's Game, and there's a lot of connection between how she sees the man-made of moonlight in this, right? Like, okay, well, how much of it is real? How much of it is in her head? Is the force that's watching her, is it actually the bear the whole time? Or is it this dread about her parents being divorced and her brother and all that? And so I really did appreciate how it mixed metaphorical horror with literal horror as it went along. Like by the end of the book, I really was seeing it as a horror novel.
And he almost does a meta thing with kind of playing with the constant readers and listeners too, because he has a lot of red herrings that are set up throughout this whole novel, and those red herrings would certainly take this into a different direction, right? And I guess it kind of goes in what you were just saying, Kathy, which is like, is it or isn't it? And we always talk about like, the King implying usually means like that's actually what is real and what is actually happening. Like, if I always talk about like the Cujo thing with like Tad seeing the boogeyman in the closet. Probably is the boogeyman in the closet, because at that point in King's work, like most of the times when he's implying something, it tends to be true. I don't think that's the case here. I think that's actually I think it's a little more mercurial, and I think it kind of ties into where King's mindset was at the time of his writing, where, ever since we talked about it back in 2018, we talked about how that was sort of his like epic closing salvo to like finishing out the horror run of his. And since then, his horror has permeated in different ways that are a little more real and a little more grounded, and is certainly what we'll be discussing in the 90s Kingies. But with this one, it's almost like he gets sort of slightly meta about it. Like the fact that like we literally have a report about the serial killer, or not the serial killer, but the child molester that's out there, and it's tied with somebody that's, you know, that we keep hearing, we keep seeing stuff in the prose about someone watching her. Like, so, you know, if you're an astute scholar, a scholar of King's works, you're probably going to think, oh, that's going to tie eventually, and then it doesn't. Like so King's playful in that way here, and I kind of like that. But then it also works because it really is in sync with what a 9-year-old mind would be like, right? Like you would be going back and forth on these things. So I don't know. I think it's really smart and it's tight for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And I do want to talk about the sub-audible, because I think that for me feels kind of like an end cap into this exploration of faith and like what that means in a practical sense. But a couple of reviews kind of pulled some of these themes out. Publishers Weekly said, love of baseball suffuses the novel from the chapter headings, i.e. bottom of the ninth, and Trish's reliance, though through fevered imagined conversations with him on real-life Boston pitcher Tom Gordon and his grace under pressure. King renders the woods as an eerie wonderland, one harboring a something stalking Trisha, but also, just perhaps, God. He explicitly explores questions of faith here, as he has before, as in desperation, but without impeding the rush of the narrative. Despite its brevity, the novel ripples with ideas, striking images, pop culture allusions, and recurring themes, plus an unnecessary smattering of scatology. It's classic.
Love that they called that.
Yep.
I know. Also, they used the word smattering, which feels
good rhetoric, good alliteration.
Splattering, I think.
Scattering, scatology. Oh, that's really good.
I know. It's classic King, brutal, intensely suspenseful, and exhilarating affirmation of the human spirit, which I think is what I love the most about it. But I loved how he mentioned kind of the series of like books that are examining God and what religion means. And I think this is before the accident, but it is after getting sober. And we talked a lot about this in Desperation and the Regulators. It's just like exploring what God is and what powerlessness in the face of a force like God could mean. And I feel like he is kind of getting to a peaceful place here with just describing the sub-audible. I have a lot of thoughts about that later. I don't want to jump ahead to the hook, but I just thought it was interesting. Do y'all have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, go for it.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think I prefer, and yeah, I'll save specific stuff just because I know we'll go into the sub-audible, but I prefer that version of King's spirituality as opposed to The Stand, where it's just like hardcore Christian. I mean, not hardcore Christian, but I just think it makes it a little bit more universal. And I mean, you know, none of us know Stephen King, but it seems to be like when the dad describes his beliefs, I feel like that's King's belief. Like that seems to encompass
I think
King's
so too.
beliefs more. Because isn't his daughter like a Universalist minister or something like that
is.
too? Mm-hmm. And so just that I felt like this was just the right dash of or dose of that, as opposed to I never like it when he gets too heavy handed with the spiritual stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
And another theme that I think kind of came out in some of the reviews I was reading was scary. It's kind of, Justin, what you were talking about, scary, but not like a monster scary. It's like this is reality scary. And so I wanted to read from the New York Times, Christopher Lehman Haupt. I hope I said that right. Sorry.
I love these critics' names. So
I know.
Christopher Lehman Haupt.
Yeah, they're you can just hear the monocle.
Oh.
Now, what you might expect King to do at this point is to summon up, at the very least, a homicidal pedophile on the loose or a rabid werewolf running amok to terrorize poor Trisha, who, while a gritty young thing and tall for her age, is even afraid of the dark. And then a little bit later, but surprisingly in this story, that seems almost to have written itself, King leaves his heavy-breathing monsters mostly out of it and relies on the simple things about being lost in the deep woods that would upset most of us, like insects, snakes, hunger, thirst, cliffs, swamps, thick foliage with thorns, disease, extreme weather, noises in the dark, and our own overheated imaginations. Oh, and something that seems to be stalking Trisha, something very large, something that grunts, something capable of ripping the head off a deer from its body, something that we know Trisha is going to have to deal with directly before she gets out of the woods. And I have have one more thing I want to read from that, but I think it's interesting that all the reviews I read made a point to mention it is scary. This monster, there is a monster here, but also mentioning that it's a situational, more survivalist horror, realistic thing, which I think is a transition for him too,
It's like Hatchet, but without, with a little more
Oh, the Gary
spectral.
Paulson Hatchet. I think you meant Hatchet, the Kane Hodder thing.
Oh,
I was
no.
It's like when people get their heads
wait a
crushed to
minute.
walnut sizes.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
I hear this. Yes,
Yeah,
keep going, Mike.
Wrestling,
You mean like Hatchet in the River and all that, right? The Gary Paulson.
Yeah, exactly. Like these are the stories that you read when you're like I don't know, when you read like The Giver and like all that stuff, and it's not like a fifth grade, maybe
Between 10 and
It's
12.
like middle school, I feel like.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I feel like
was
that's
like
where it
my
fits in.
postdoctorate.
Your postdoctorate, yeah. It's like, oh, well, we
Giver.
went from Dostoevsky to Gary Paulson.
James Joyce.
Oh God.
It's like, well, I know Ulysses was tough, but we got Hatchet coming up next.
And here, The Giving Tree.
Oh,
Which I do love.
The
I
Giving
love The Giving
Tree.
Tree.
I do love The
Yeah.
Giving Tree.
Yeah.
I still get a little
Make you
emotional
cry.
at the end of that.
Yeah.
Although I
like
do
it.
have some thoughts on the Giving Tree.
Does the end of The Giving Tree have Shel Silverstein like with that smile at the end, or
Yes.
is he more stern? I can't remember which. If
No, I think
the picture?
most of the time he's got a big smile on his face.
Yeah.
He was. I think he was a little bit into the psychedelics. I might be wrong
Yeah.
about that.
He was probably high off his ass.
Yeah, he hung out with a lot of
Yeah.
rock stars. I love.
I
Shel
mean, a
Silverstein.
tree's talking in this
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trees don't talk.
He wanted to put on there a memoir, and I thought that was that's when you knew.
Yeah, exactly. One more thing I wanted to read that is kind of along this line is from Entertainment Weekly by Rebecca Asher Walsh, another hyphenate.
Rebecca Asher Walsh.
Asher Walsh, yes.
Oh, yes.
I apologize if Rebecca's listening. I'm sure you're delightful.
Hey, look, if you use three names, you're going to get a little bit of a ding.
True. The perils of being raised in a dysfunctional family. It's a bad, bad world out there. And having an out to lunch mother, which I think is slightly unfair, and an
Yikes.
absent father sure can make life more difficult. Your only chance of survival, rely on your inner resources and focus on your faith. Sounds like the latest from one of Oprah Winfrey's Change Your Life segments, right? Nope. It's none other than Stephen King, whose new novel, The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, finds its fright factor not in the supernatural, but in the demons within, which I love that. But I always it's kind of a tell with who reviewers are familiar with King's work, I'm like, well, actually, he does this more often.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then surprisingly, the sticky religious questions, and there are a lot of them, don't detract much from the pleasure of this story. Unless you're looking for a read like The Shining, King's been inching towards a book like this for a long time. His novels have become increasingly focused on spirituality, 1996 Desperation and the same year's The Green Mile, and it's evident he has spent a great deal of time grappling with the subject. The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon isn't going to keep diehard horror fans up at night, but adventure addicts will find plenty of thrills.
Oh, well, at least this person read Desperation, so they do have a decent.
That's true. Yeah,
They're
that's
tough.
not.
Deep dives. They're going for deep cuts.
I do like
true.
the distinction between horror hounds and adventure addicts.
Right, exactly.
Hey, I want to clarify really quick. I just looked up. Shel Silverstein apparently did not do drugs or drink alcohol.
We'd like to
Ah,
apologize
okay.
to the
He thought it
estate
altered-
of Shel Silverstein.
He didn't
the
want to.
estate.
He didn't
Yes.
want to alter his consciousness or his talent, but he did like to hang out with people who did those things so he could observe them and write funny songs about.
Oh, he
them.
was always the control in the circle of people doing LSD.
Yeah.
He was the control.
Yeah,
He's
the
very nice.
electro Kool-Aid acid test. He
I
was
don't mean
like
to
the
derail us.
designated driver.
I didn't want to get sued for slander or anything.
No,
so
that's
there
a
we go.
good
Yeah.
point. That's a good
I'd like to
point.
apologize to the tree also.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Especially
apologize
the
It was a
stump.
giving tree.
and the
Okay.
Silverstein estate.
He's been through enough, okay? That Giving Tree is a stump by the end.
It's kind of an anomaly in Giving Tree. Isn't or not an anomaly, but isn't it? It's not really that tragic. The tree's gonna be able to grow again, right? I mean, it's a stump, so it could just keep going again, right?
I mean,
I don't know. Yeah, I guess it's
Stay
Stay
Well,
tuned for
no.
the Giving Tree afterlife.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Brought to you by Jason Reitman.
Jason Reitman.
That's his next project. It's
Giving
like,
you your tree back, guys.
He's like,
It's like
you
my
know,
dad-
He's like my dad was great friends with Shel Silverstein's daughter, and I've been putting it off for years. But I felt I had to answer the call and make a Giving Tree sequel.
and High C is going to do a limited Giving Tree, giveaway.
Put the sexiest man alive in it, and I'll watch it.
Paul Rudd is the old man.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be great. Yeah.
I watch Paul Rudd as the tree.
Are you
Hey.
telling me that you grew back? But
Can I sit here or not?
oh my god. But here's an interesting thing I thought about in terms of the timeline for King. Does this book look different if it's written a year later after the crash?
I don't think it
think
gets written
so.
at all.
I mean, it would look
Yeah.
it would look different in that it's a very coherent book, and because I think I mean, I'm somewhat of a Dreamcatcher apologist. I enjoy that novel quite a bit, but it's so chaotic. It's so all over the place. And
It
you can
is,
tell
yeah.
it's him learning how to write again. And so I feel like if this was after the crash, you'd be like, wow, he honestly, you know what though? This came out after the crash. I almost feel like it would feel, because Dreamcatcher didn't necessarily feel like a new direction. It almost felt like Tommy Knocker's territory, where he was learning how to ride a bike. Whereas if he did this right after the crash, it may have indicated, oh wow, are these the kind of novels we're going to see from him now? And something shorter, more compact, maybe a little bit more inward, which we do. I mean, he kind of gets back around to doing the big mammoth novels, but even what we're seeing now with like Elevation, and I haven't read Billy Summers or Later, but those are shorter books too, right? And a little bit more character driven.
Later is.
And Gwenny's button box, all that. So I feel like maybe this, in a way, it did indicate a direction he would eventually go in. But I feel like if it had been placed right after the accident, people may have been like, oh, is this what we're going to expect from now? And like the change would have been flagged a bit more, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, because it's strange. It's just like for a novel that's so, connected to the struggle of life and holding on to your life and the ability to survive and hit those hurdles. It is kind of eerie that this came out right before that. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's just something I didn't think about.
Sub-audible,
Yeah, it is the sub. Yeah, right. Jesus.
I don't think that this book ever would have been written. I think that his mind was in a different place, and I think it was changed forever after that accident. I think, obviously down the line, he kind of would start to go back to some of the elements that happened, before 2000, 2001. But if he ever did it, I feel like it would have come out in place of Faithful, which is the book about the Red Sox the year they won the World Series. I wonder if this would have come out, or something inspired by this would have come out instead of that nonfiction book.
Have you read that?
I haven't. I'm really looking forward to that. I never read it.
I read it.
Oh,
I
really?
enjoyed it. Yeah, I liked it a lot more than I thought I was going to.
Well, it was a coincidence that he just happened to write it, not knowing that the Red Sox were obviously going to win the World Series, I think, too. So that should be interesting to read.
Isn't that weird that seemed to be going along for a lot of variations in pop culture? Like they were filming Fever Pitch around the same time. Then
they reshot at the ending because they actually ended up winning the World Series.
And like King infamously even like if I recall, like didn't he like on the telecast like predict that they were going to come back from the 0-3 or the 3-0 run with like the Yankees?
We'll read all about it in 2005.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
We'll find out.
What if we should have done that in conjunction with this? Jen, do you think that was...
Faithful?
Do you think we could wait it? We could wait for it at this point?
Yeah, we can wait. Yeah, it is. It's really good, but it is a different kind of story.
It could be the 20-year anniversary at this point.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But it is interesting because I think when we're looking at things that happened 20 years ago and we're looking at a writing career that has spanned 40 years at this point, and I'm sorry if my head math is wrong, but like it's easy for us to put things in chunks, but like he's not writing The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon thinking, well, I'm going to have an accident in the next year and I'm going to totally change directions, and but it's interesting the way things just kind of fall,
Yeah.
And you can see like arcs. And I think a lot of that happens because there's just so much work, like it's not like we're analyzing the crap out of one single book. We've got 70 books that we can kind of dig into and see a lot of patterns that come out. But let's bring it back. And you know what brings it back? The hook brings it back. So let's go to the hook.
Ah, yes. Don't you see? Don't you see how clear it all is? Not only can you see the future, I can change it. You can change it, exactly.
So this is, and I'm going to go a little bit out of order because we were talking about the sub-audible, and I think let's continue talking about that because I think, Justin, I'm not sure if you were kidding about this, but when you said it's the sub-audible, I was like, well, yeah, maybe it might be like, it's just things are falling into place kind of the way they should, And I think this is a really interesting exploration of God. And I look at it kind of, sometimes I wonder if it's a chicken or egg thing about the way that I imagine God and the sub-audible lines up with King because I've grown up reading it, or if I am drawn to King because our understandings are the same. And I don't think there's any way to piece it apart, but, this seems to me like the sub-audible is like fate or nature or like the uncontrollable. And I think Trisha's journey here, a lot of that is just making peace with that, and that and we'll talk about the climax, but I feel that with King here is that he is making peace with God, and he's saying, I don't necessarily have to have everything figured out. I don't have to be like David in desperation and have my idea really firmly latched. It's okay to just say, yeah, this is something that's under the surface and I can feel it, but I don't quite know what it is.
Yeah, there's a great quote in this, and I feel like if all the religion talk that Dan alluded to earlier, especially that King has been sprinkling in or flat out shoving in her face in terms of like The Stand, I think is one of the best lines here, and that kind of even sync up with my ultimate feelings on faith and anything else out there, and the Sabbatable in this case. And it's from Trisha's father says this, and he says, I don't believe in any actual thinking God that marks the fall of every bird in Australia or every bug in India, a God that records all of our sins in a big golden book and judges us when we die. I don't want to believe in a God who would deliberately create bad people and then deliberately send them to roast in the hell he created. But I believe there has to be something. I think that kind of permeates through the book. And I think that for Trisha, the something happens and manifests in her imagining Tom Gordon being throughout.
Yeah. Do you guys think that it because I was thinking about Ka a lot too, and it might be because I'm catching up on as I haven't listened to the Wizard and Glass episode yet because I'm still reading it. So maybe it's because I'm in that. And also in Dark Tower world right now, but I kept thinking of Ka, like just this once again, like the more universalist idea of all of it. But y'all, it sounds like y'all were thinking that too.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that idea, that nameless something that he talks about. I mean, like the quote on like page 72, and it's like, I think there is a force that keeps most drunken teenagers from crashing their cars. Like that seems like something that would feel like if someone asked King about Ka, like that would be like kind of his response to that. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of it I feel like when you get into survival horror, at least in the literary sense, like the notions of God or a supreme being always come into play, which is why I think it's not a surprise to me that when while reading this, I actually was thinking a lot of The Revenant. And one of the reasons why I really gravitated to that story, and I take so much umbrage with people like kind of shitting on the movie and being like, oh, it's about nothing, and it's just a fucking performance piece for Leo. I'm like, well, no,
it's a movie, and
it's a great movie, and thematically, I think what it really gets at is something that kind of ties in here, is that the concept of God is that it's anything that drives us in any situation in this world. And I feel like in the movie, like at one point in the Revenant, Tom Hardy. He talks to Will Poulter, and he says early on about how there was a squirrel was God to a past acquaintance of his, simply because it provided that man sustenance. And he talks about how he ought to be God to him because he saved Will Poulter's life. And when you look at it structurally in the whole movie, and this is when I reviewed it back in 2015, which is like 30 years ago. I talked about how like God really is interchangeable to everyone in that movie. For like Leonardo DiCaprio, it's his dead wife and son that keeps driving him, forward. And for Tom Hardy, it was the future in Texas. For the Indian father, it was his, the lost daughter. And again, it's like whatever keeps you breathing, whoever keeps you alive, and whatever you truly believe in, it doesn't really matter if you have that focal point in your life, and that could be what you call God, or it could be just what keeps you going. And for example here, like what Justin says, Tom Gordon is that figure, I feel like. And I looked at it almost like kind of going back with like a lot of what King loves to do, where he has the light and the dark. I felt like Tom Gordon is that light, and then you have this the wasp hornet as like death, which is the bear. And that seems to be kind of the case with almost every survival story, especially anything with man versus nature. You have that's those opposing forces, I feel like, at some point in the literary story. So I feel like for me, that's kind of how I broke down the religiosity of it all. So I don't know. Sorry, that was a long-winded explanation.
Well, King's Dominion, Mike, because Ian Poulter from The Revenant was originally supposed to play Pennywise.
That is true.
That's right.
Yeah. And Cary Fukunaga's different it.
Yeah.
Well, and it's like that one thing in City Slickers, like that, find your thing that works for you, And I think like this is coming. I don't know where King is in the steps in his recovery at this point, but like that is like a really important element in sobriety, is finding a reason, finding a grander design to keep you doing this really hard thing. And that's what Trisha is doing, is she's got to keep going. And you know, having a daughter that's 9 years old, I don't want to be that parent that's like, oh my God, it's so different when you're a parent. But like, I couldn't help but think like what my daughter would do at this point, you know, and I think she has this drive and she has this thing that she has found that keeps her going. And there was another quote that was about the subaudible that I really liked, and it kind of ties into what you're saying, Mike, about survival horror. It's on page 92. The coldly beautiful face of the moon suggested to her that the subaudible was more plausible after all. A god who didn't know he or it, with a capital I, was a god, one with no interest in lost little girls, one with no real interest in anything, a knocked out, loaded god whose mind was like a circling cloud of bugs and whose eye was the wrapped and vacant moon. And I think that kind of goes back a little bit to like God is cruel from desperation, but it's like a kinder understanding. It's like, this is just the world that we're in. Like the world has teeth, but it also has like warm arms and like beauty in it. Yeah. So
do you guys think that, because in Desperation Regulars, it's Tak is like the form of, well, it's like the evil god, right? Which is almost like Ka, like Tak, like Ka. So I mean, that's probably nothing, but yeah, I just thought that. Very smart.
Here's a question I had and Justin, this is pretty to you because I feel like you can definitely relate. Do you feel like this story is almost like King wrestling with his fandom for the Red Sox? Because it's 99, they haven't won yet, and I feel like the book can kind of be seen as like a parallel to being a Red Sox fan. That idea that you always have these brushes with greatness, and you always have these really hard-hitting moments of failure, but you never lose hope. You always keep believing. And I feel like in Moneyball kind of gets at this, and I watched it last night at 3 a.m. for some reason, but they get at the idea that like the only, you know, you could have all these like successful moments, but in the end, the last game is what really counts, you know, at least to a lot of people. And I feel like in this respect, like that the last game is just making sure you get that next day, right? Mm-hmm. And I almost wonder if King is kind of spiritually wrestling with his own fandom of being a Red Sox fan. Like I was reading an article or essay about his reaction to Fever Pitch, just because I was trying to find some Tom Gordon research on this, and he talked about how he actually related with Jimmy Fallon's character in the movie, which, by the way, it's the Nick Hornby novel has nothing to do with the Red Sox. It actually has to do with like soccer, yeah,
football.
Is the movie good?
Football. I like the movie.
Yeah.
I think it's a good movie, and Stephen King appears in it. By the way, he does the opening pitch for that year, and he talks about how he relates to that because for him, Red Sox is a religion, and I wonder if he was kind of wielding a little bit of that in this, because I mean, does it feel almost like a survival horror being a Cubs fan, or did it prior to 2016, Justin? I mean,
I think it does, especially, you know, there's a lot of passive fans, you know, and obviously, you know, you don't want to devote so much of your time to a losing effort, aka the Red Sox and Cubs, for decades upon decades, in some cases centuries. But I actually do. I didn't really think of it that way in terms of the conclusion of the story, like in terms of a real through outline of, oh, this is actually what fandom is you're feeling like you're lost in the woods, but you keep going because, boy, if it happens, it's going to feel so sweet. And that's obviously her survival. It was worth it because, God, life feels so good now. I like that take, Mike. I didn't really think of it that way.
It just came to me when I was just thinking about the idea of the struggle of being that fan and just like how easy it is to lose. I honestly think it's because of Moneyball. I was watching it last night, and the idea that like it'd be so easy to just give up and be like, "Fuck this!" Like everything's against me, because that's what happens.
Moneyball, how can you not be romantic about baseball?
I love that.
Yeah.
God.
If I can now, that's maybe you accidentally segged into my my tangent, but my soliloquy about baseball and just sports in general. And I think there's a great excerpt here that this is when she's really getting down in it, and I think it's either the first or second time she's listening to a game, and it says, King writes, Trisha slid off the fallen tree to the ground. The bark scraped against the wasp stings on her hip, but she hardly noticed. Mosquitoes settled with immediate hungry, intent on her bare back where her shirt and the tatters of the blue poncho had mucked up, but she didn't feel them. And this is a great instance of how sports can absolutely take you away. And I've tried to, people ask me, like, why do you like baseball and basketball and football and sports so much? And I think in a lot of ways, it's because it really is in a way it's detached from reality, it will take you away because everything happening in the world doesn't matter. All that matters is what's happening on that field or on that court. And especially now, 20 years after this book came out, it's the last true drama that we have, the last true bit of suspense that we have. Because now, before we watch any movie, we can have it spoiled for us. Before we read any book, we can go to the last page. But with sports, you absolutely have no idea what's going to happen second to second. And I think that's why I love it so much, because it's like the last bit of drama that we can really have. Fun drama, because there's obviously a lot of nightmare stuff going on that we don't know from day to day that's going to be happening, that we're living through. But I think that's what can really make such a huge impact. And I remember around the time, I think it was like right after my mom had passed away, we were all kind of just in the living room, I think getting ready for the funeral even, or the next day, people were coming to town. And I remember it was opening day at Wrigley Field, and Kosuke Fukudome hit like a 3-run homer to tie the game. We were all like jumping up and down, and we were like, I can't believe like we're able to have this reaction to this despite everything else going around. And I think that's just another example of why people can gravitate towards not just the quote unquote American pastime, but sports in general.
I
don't know. It's a thing that even the fact that I just tried to explain it, I still can never fully explain what it is. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think that's another intriguing thing about sports and fandom in general, for me at least.
It's like the try, when we were doing, Justin, we did like a list of baseball movies a few years ago. And I was trying to explain why I love Major League. And I think one of the reasons why I love that is that it's just about a group of underdogs that keep trying, that keep going, keep trying. And I think sports is that for us. Like I just talked about how I love survival horror and I love survival stories in general. Sports is kind of that. Like, it's this timeless triumph. Like, if you just see great feats that happen again and again, and you're like, how the fuck did that happen? And you don't get that in I guess in movies, sometimes you get performances and stuff like that. You're like, wow, that's an amazing performance. But this is something different. Like, this is like humanity. Like, this is like what our species are able to do, how they're able to endure, how they're able to tackle those hurdles. And I'm wondering, like, maybe that's what gets us back all the time. Like, it keeps going. Like, what are we going to do next? I mean, like, even if there's a shitty season for any league, I feel like there's at least 1 or 2 or 3 bright spots where you're like, holy shit, I can't believe that happened.
Of course, yeah. Right? There's always a buzzer beater that happens in the middle of a 60-loss season, or a game-winning home run that happens in the middle of a 90-loss season. Something always will happen. They'll bring you back.
Yeah.
The
And
hook
it's
will bring you back, Jen,
unscripted.
right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. But it's like you were saying, it's drama, but it's unscripted. And I think it's not tailored to what we want it to be, which I think as uplifting as a lot of movies I find are, there's always in the back of my mind, like, this is designed for me to feel uplifted. And I think when you watch sports and that great thing happens, it's genuine and it's honest and it's a surprise a lot of times. And the thing I think a lot about with sports that is really inspiring to me is that it's like failure on a grand scale. I think about that U2 song Stuck in a Moment, about the guy who missed the kick and like couldn't get out of it. But like, you think, like, you watch football and like every player on the field is going to fuck up on a world stage at least once in every game, and you keep going. And I, lots of times I say, well, if the worst thing that happens to you today is that like you miss a pass in the NFL, you're doing okay, but you still, like, everybody in the world is seeing, I mean, not everyone in the world, but millions of people see you fuck up and you got to keep going. And I think that there's something really inspirational about that. And I think it's like, I always like the reality shows where it's not, as much as I love Survivor, I like the ones that are just like Great British Baking Show, like, just do your best. And whoever did the best wins, and I think that's what sports is, and it's unifying. It's like we are celebrating the people trying their best, and it's connecting because it connects Trisha to the larger world, and I think that is what keeps her going. Is that she is not truly alone. There are other people that are in that channel with her, and. So I guess that can lead us into the other theme, baseball. We've been talking about it. But Mike, I know you found an article about Tom Gordon and his response to this.
Yeah, so because I was trying to find, I know, like, you actually reached out to Tom Gordon on Facebook, right, Justin?
I reached out on Instagram
really?
to him, and
Did you get back?
What if I get back? What if I check it again? And he's like, love to do it.
Oh, yeah.
No, but Mr. Gordon did not did not get back to me. But like, I don't know if he manages his own Instagram.
Did he see? Did he like see the it says if they've seen the message to say that he saw it.
What if it did? But it's a thumbs down. Like I missed it.
Oh my god! He's like, fuck off.
Fuck off.
Well, he's apparently charmed by this story. Because I really wanted to know, like, there's got to been, he had to have had a quote or something about it. And
Right.
he the only thing I could find was this 2005 New York Times article. So this is like
the
a
only
year
thing I
after
could
the
find too, Mike.
Oh, so you have
It's the only thing I can find too.
If you have
no,
the notes
I don't
for-
have it written down. But you go ahead. I think
Yeah, it was this piece called "The Emotional, Excitable Tom Gordon," and here's the section that specifies specifically the book. Gordon delights in talking about his title role in the 1999 Stephen King novel "The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon," a story in which he's a pillar of confidence to a 9-year-old girl lost in the woods of Maine. Written when Gordon was a closer for the Red Sox, it was released as a pop-up children's book last year. It was up to her to close to seal the deal, King wrote, describing the girl's encounter with a bear. You had to be still inside and save situations. Had to pull your cap down low like Tom Gordon. Had to look the opposition in the eye and show you were better. When King was on a book tour a few years ago, he called Gordon and invited him to lunch. Gordon said that he admired King, but that King had not quite captured his character. Calm on the inside, Gordon strives to be, but it is not his nature. Gordon has lasted this long on nervous energy, and it will probably always be his fuel. And he says, I wouldn't change a thing. To be aggressive and to be excited, that's a wonderful thing in this game. When you're scared, that's something different. But to be excited and aggressive, that's a wonderful thing. I mean, I guess in a way that's still the cold, like it's still like cold water in the veins in a way, right? I mean, it's just anxiety, I guess. That's what kind of fuels you.
I mean, it's still at the end of the day. It doesn't matter. You still have to be cool under pressure.
Yeah.
Whether in your head you're screaming or
yeah,
but nobody sees it. That's the thing. You've got to at least keep the illusion that you are in total control. And I think that's the thing about the reliever, especially in baseball, and that's why it's so clever. Of all the different sports that King loves and could take in from in different positions, to use the reliever, you know, because it really does come down to the reliever, and it's the reliever who is in the center of the infield, and thousands upon thousands of people there are just looking at that person. You know what I mean? Not to blow it. And I think no matter how you feel on the inside, it's the stillness from the outside that you have got to put out there.
Do you think that's the hardest position in any sports? Is that moment?
I think it's between that and then being a kicker in the NFL.
Yeah, kickers.
A field goal kicker in the NFL.
Or like if you have like, or if like you're like LeBron with 3 seconds left in the game, and they're like, all right, it's you.
Yeah.
But at least in that case, you've got somebody 2 inches in front of you, and you've got 9 other people on the court. So it's like, well, if you miss it, it's tough.
I mean, because those situations, it's all millions of eyes, all on just one person for one play, which seems, I don't know much about sports, but yeah, I would imagine that's if you would feel the pressure then.
And it's that vast field too. It's not just like a court. It's like that vast, huge field, that green field, and everybody's just looking at the center,
You know who does a really good job in showing that sort of internalization is that Sam Raimi movie, For the Love of the Game.
Oh,
does a really good job at like just kind of getting in the mind of the pitcher. And Costner is, no stranger to baseball. And he's probably, I would probably argue, like probably the best actor that ever done baseball on screen probably. But it just really gets into that idea of like, you really do have to kind of have a real spiritual well-being with yourself, or like a connectivity with yourself. And seems like Gordon has that. I would love to know what their conversations were on the book tour, or when they actually sat down, to hang out.
You're like my dinner with Gordon.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
my lunch with Gordon.
Yeah.
Well, but it's interesting because we were talking about like, and in the afterward, he makes a note that says this Tom Gordon is fictional. And that kind of goes back to what you were saying, Mike, about finding your one thing. It's like, it doesn't necessarily matter if he himself is feeling still inside. That is what Trisha needs in this moment. Mm-hmm. And so that is what enables her to keep going. And that's kind of that inspirational thing that we can take from sports, or we can take from the subaudible, or we can take from God. It's what works for us in this moment. And I think where people get really tripped up or really led astray is when we don't allow ourselves that flexibility to just get what we need from something and kind of leave the rest,
Yeah.
Well, let's move into the other theme that I wanted to talk about. This is a single character novel, not technically because there are different characters, but it is another. We talked about it maybe being a stealth eclipse novel, and we talked about Gerald's Game Jr. But I wanted to mention a couple of stories that it kind of has a lot of the same DNA as. There's a story called The Gingerbread Girl, which is in Just After Sunset, which we haven't covered on the pod, so I don't want to go in depth. But
2027.
Yeah.
Yes, real. God, no exaggeration.
But I love it. If you like Tom Gordon and you haven't read The Gingerbread Girl, I would highly recommend that.
Yes.
Justin, have you read it?
Yes. Really good.
Yeah.
It's crazy, Jen, reading these like Nightmares and Dreamscapes collection, and then to know, oh no, he's going to have a few more short story collections that are actually really strong.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like
it's just crazy.
Skeleton Crew. I mean, Skeleton Crew's got a lot of good stuff in it, but I mean, there's a lot of bad stuff in it too. I feel like Skeleton Crew, Nightmares and Dreamscapes, and 4 Past Midnight, which I know is more novellas than short stories. I honestly feel like those are among his like worst collections. I mean, I love Night Shift is perfect. It will probably always be the best, but Just After Sunset, Everything's Eventual, even Bizarre Bad Dreams. I mean, he has some really good short story collections later on in his career. And yeah, Gingerbread Girl is an excellent one.
I just keep hearing like Michael Jackson, like the Gingerbread Girl.
Oh, Mike.
Ghost Part 2. Gingerbread Girl. She ran down the beach. Gingerbread Girl. Sorry.
Well, as I learned with stats, our listeners really love Michael Jackson. That's me being sarcastic. Yeah, it was like lowest rated episode, but yeah. Anyway.
Hey, I listened. You know what?
That's a great episode, man.
I thought it was excellent.
I thought it was excellent.
People didn't listen to it. There's a lot of discussion about everything to do with MJ. And the video, I think, is a great balance in it.
You got 3 Jacko scholars on there, so it was like we tried.
Well, and speaking of the other like the earlier collections we just mentioned, there's also The Ledge, and then there's Grandma, and there's Survivor Type, all kind of single character, and we have a lot of internal monologue. And I don't necessarily think like Grandma's probably the one that has the most in common with The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. But are there any others that you can think of other than like Misery? I guess is.
Because that's a duel. That's like a twofer, basically.
I mean, well, you know what one is, and it sucks because I kind of can't spoil the big plot point about this to explain why it's similar to Tom Gordon, is Blaze by Richard Bachman, which is also a Lost in the Wilderness kind of story. That is kind of one character, but there's actually a really big connection between this and Tom Gordon. But I don't want to go too much into it because it'll be, when do we get into that? Probably also 2027.
This will actually kind of key into my Misery later on, but a little Secret Window. Secret Window pretty much just follows the protagonist for the most part, right?
Yeah.
You stole my fiddlehead.
Yeah.
John Turturro.
Hey, Fiddlehead's making an appearance in this book too.
Yeah,
they do. You know. Well, and speaking of windows, then to Fiddlehead Gardens, windows are part of the structure of a house, and Fiddleheads and format both start with the letter F. So let's go to the structure and format.
Look at me. Look at me, teacher.
And I love the way this book is plotted. I think it's really smart, and the way that it lines up, because it's the chapter heads are all called innings, and like the pregame, and then there's the 4th inning, and then the 7th inning stretch, which is like the and nothing much happened in August, from it. And I just think it's a really smart way of doing this, but it feels organic. It doesn't feel gimmicky,
Can I ask a question about this for the sports heads in the room? How come? And I didn't know. So only certain numbers of innings have the top and the bottom. So I think
they always have a top and bottom.
No, but I know in real life they do. But I'm saying in the book that he only does like, I think I want to say top of the 4th, bottom of the 4th, and maybe he does it for the 8th or 9th. I can't remember. I was wondering why he did that, and I was like, is the 4th inning usually longer in real life than no? I was just wondering why he only did
that. Was a little confusing too, because I thought maybe that when he did the top and the bottom half of the innings, that those were shorter sections.
Yeah,
but I think like the top of the 4th or the top of the 5th is really
long. That's like the longest.
So that's not really the case. I couldn't figure out if also he was trying to make some type of an analogy with pitching and then hitting, but I didn't really catch any of that.
Or maybe it was a thing where he did just have, because I think it's only 2 of the innings do that, divided between the top and the bottom. Maybe those were one chapter and they were just so long that he had to like cut it in half.
I think that's what it was.
That's possible too.
Probably what it
They're
was.
both so long.
But I was wondering, when I was reading, like, is our 4th innings longer? Usually I wasn't sure, but so it sounds like maybe it was just an inconsistency.
Well, King kind of just goes like he he's like what the Joker says. He just chases cars, like a dog chasing cars.
He's an agent of chaos.
Yeah, like but that's how he writes, and like he doesn't. I mean, I think in editing he's certainly meticulous about how he's going to break it all down and all. But I do think that's what happened was that he's got this long section. He can only break it down so much because I mean, really, there is no. I mean, I've been to baseball games where like the 2nd inning goes on for like a fucking 45 minutes and then it just blows through, or like the 7th inning goes on for a while, or the 9th inning just seems like it's never going to end, and you're like, should we listen on the radio home? Like, do you want to go?
I'm gonna beat the crowd.
So I don't think it's any. I mean, I'm sure there's baseball's all nothing but statistics. I'm sure there's like definitely average of innings that are a lot longer than the other, but I do think it was just a. Tabby, I got to split this up.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Tabby's like, you need a top of the 7th stretch and a bottom of the 7th.
I just always picture. I know that he hasn't had his accent yet, but he talks about how he learned to write. I think he said his writing office in the pantry, right after the car accident because he couldn't move a lot. And so I know he's not writing in a pantry at this point, but anytime you do the Tabby, I just always picture him sitting amongst a bunch of canned food being like, hey Tabby, like calling over his shoulder, like
the black-eyed peas are in like a shelf above him,
and we just hear her voice from the other room like yes, Steven, just divide it up. He's like, all right, thanks. And
like,
just goes back.
It's like, Steven, I told you, just ring the bell next time and I'll come in and help.
Yeah, exactly.
I will say this about Jen, to go back to your thing about the titling of the chapters, this could have easily backfired because I think about The Running Man.
Yeah, I did too.
And the countdown, and you're like, oh my God, there's still 30 chapters. Like, oh my God, there's still 20 minutes or 20 seconds left, whatever it is. This easily could have been like, oh my God, there's still 5 innings left, I never felt that way reading the book, though, because it does really just, like Mike said, just moves and moves. Like, I think that... there's not 100% fat cutting or trimming of the fat that King often forgets to do, but this is pretty slim.
Yeah,
I feel like this book could have really been split down the middle. Where I'm not sure who. I know Jen. I know you definitely read Rose Madder, but this could have easily been like a half of it's with Trisha, and then the other half is with her parents.
Yeah,
trying to navigate. Right. It was so clever of him. Well, not even clever. Just look, it was logically smart of him to just 97% of the time stick with her. Do not leave the woods. And I think that he succeeds for the most part with that.
I completely agree. Yeah. And I wanted to, the only thing I'll say about the innings too, is I think there is kind of a shift in the 4th inning. And I say that as a parent who's now taken young kids to baseball games, and like, we're not making it through the whole game. We go in knowing that. And it's like the 3rd inning is kind of when the newness of the game starts to wear off. And I do think that's where you feel Trisha kind of settling into where she is. It's like she talks about remembering tying her shoes in the morning and that it feels such a long time ago. And that might not be in the 4th inning, but it's just this feeling of like, okay, we're in the game now. This is really happening. It's not like our nerves are kind of over, But yeah, I think it probably was just padding. I think he wanted to do pregame and then the 9th and then the 7th inning stretch and everything there just kind of laid out the way it needed to. But that's Justin, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because another section of the review that I wanted to read, which is a criticism of what you were kind of alluding to. And it's from, I think it's from that Entertainment Weekly one. Nope, it's from the New York Times. Christopher Lehman-Holt said, let's see, okay. So he said, more damagingly, King insists on several times stepping beyond Trisha's point of view to report how the search for her is going, what her parents are up to, and how her brother is feeling. While all of this information could easily have been conveyed in the context of Trisha's experience, for instance, by reporting it on her radio, as in fact her being lost is announced, or by having her extrapolate it from past experience, as in fact she imagines her family's reaction to her crisis. Working it in as King has done only dissipates the narrative tension he has built. And I actually disagree with that. I think it's just the right amount, What do y'all have thoughts?
Like I said, I'm happy that he got 97% right by just focusing on her for the most part. I do think, I kind of do agree with that criticism. No, I do think a lot of it could have been conveyed through the Walkman. It only would have added to the tension of what's going on. I think that when you're with somebody who's lost the entire time, it's going to be a different impact of occasionally alluding to what's going on in the outside world. Because when you're with Trisha, the outside world shouldn't even be in existence. It should just be the vastness of nature, you know? So I understand where that criticism is coming from. I don't think it's ultimately a major detriment to the book, though. I just think it's a criticism that could be made of the book.
Yeah. Because he could have done. Like as you said, Justin, like he definitely exerts some control here. Because there are just so many instances where he could have just been king being king and just go on a tangent and give us a side story about how this happened or why this item has even some more relevance. And yeah, he does have some restraint here, but I guess in hindsight, I do wonder what this book would look like if you didn't know about the motel room or you didn't know about you really just only had the reports. Maybe it probably is even tighter book than it is at this point.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't, it's not a deal breaker for me by any means going, these little vignettes we have. But I think Trisha's memories of all them, like her memories with her dad, are to me much more powerful than actually seeing them in real time. And I just imagine if I don't know. I do like the mom and dad like sharing a bed after a while. That there's just something that feels very real about that among these parents are splitting up. But I keep wondering, how powerful could that have been if we don't see the mom or the dad till the very end of the hospital room, and she just sees her family in there?
Exactly. Yeah.
She doesn't know. I mean, because I don't necessarily get that the parents are going to get back together or anything at the end of the novel. But I'm like, it's neat to have that possibility. Like if she just sees them together and she's still in this kind of hallucinatory state, and it's like, okay, what's going to happen with my family? I don't know. I think that would be dramatically maybe just a little bit more interesting.
Well, you know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of Castaway, because one of the directives that Zemeckis set out for himself, and I think Hanks was also in agreement with this, is that you're never going to leave the island. You do not go back to the mainland until he goes back to the mainland. Spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen the 20-year-old Castaway.
Someone's like,
I was just putting it on.
Oh my God. I thought he made that cross. I thought he was going to kill himself. But but he's like, I'm halfway through. But yeah, I think that really works for Castaway. I think that when you do get back there, it is such a revelation to see where everyone is, to see his reactions to the society. So, in hindsight, I do kind of wish that they had a total disconnect from it, because it does make more sense, because it is very weird.
The shit's a little jarring. When they go there, I was like, oh wait, what? We're here now? I mean, like I said, and they're not there long enough for it to really bother me. But yeah, I had that question too.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, there are two moments that I do really enjoy, and we can talk about those in our next section briefly. But I like a moment with her brother, and I like a moment with the mother where they're experiencing her loss, you know. But I mean, so I think I kind of like the inclusion, but I could see that argument because it also reminds me of The Ruins, which is really tense, and you never leave the hill. And that one doesn't even have chapter breaks. Like it has breaks in text, but it just keeps going, and there's not any like goalposts or anything, you know.
I think The Ruins is a lot more lighthearted.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
We should say too, Castaway is free to watch on Tubi. I just checked. So.
Hey, Tubi.
What a surprise!
Love Tubi.
Tubi is amazing.
Love Tubi.
From
by the way,
Moon to Warner Brothers. I mean, they got it all.
It should be noted that we are sponsored by Tubi, so hey, we're on brand on that one. So there's some, some free.
I really do
there.
like Tubi.
Hey, Tubi's free. I'm not paying for Tubi. I don't feel bad about that.
I jokingly bring it up all the time, but I love Tubi. I've watched so many movies the past year on it. So thank you, Tubi.
Yeah, thank you. Tubi.
But one thing also that I think works though for the third person omission is that is when King is able to do the foreshadowing. And able to like one of my favorite passages where I literally had to stop and I had to tell Sammy about it is when she pivots to the left and goes the wrong way. And he's like, she did the worst mistake, one of her second worst mistakes. And that, that town was right beyond the next marsh that she stumbles upon, and that, where she's going is 400 miles away from Montreal and nothing much else beyond that. And it's like, in that case, when you get to kind of get away from her point of view, that works. Like, I like that.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's great. But
yeah. Well, and there's that other moment where they start tracking a pedophile, and that you're wasting time on this. Like, widen your search. It's just those moments of tension that I think we would lose. And then it's hard to say because it could be a long period of time of her just in the woods, and it could be that breaks it up a little bit. But I did want to mention the bookends of this because I just love the text here. It starts with the text, "The world had teeth and it could bite you with them anytime it wanted." And I love that that's just such a fantastic sentence telling you exactly what this is going to be. And then the end, the last, it's not the actual last sentence, but it's what I like to think is the last sentence. And it's when she has just done the save sign with her dad. She said, "The smile that lit his face from the eyes down was the sweetest, truest thing she had ever seen. If there was a path, it was there." And I just love the way this book is bookended because it is Trisha's journey. I love that we don't ever know if her parents get back together because that's not what this is about. She is not lost to reunite them. She's lost and saves herself. And I love that she saves, it's just really sweet. And I think there's a lot of restraint there, given that this is an author who we know can write 1,000-page books,
Yeah. Or could have had, like you said, John, that this could have been a 30-page epilogue of the family gets back together and they met Tom Gordon, that type of a thing. Could you imagine that happening? I'm shaking imagining.
That would be like the Geraldine Coda for me. Where I'm
or kissing. That's what I've been missing.
They're like in the hospital. They're in the hospital room, like, "Trish, you did it. You got out of the woods. We have a special guest for you here." Like, comes in.
You know what that reminds me of?
Walks in with balloons.
I have to say, I'm pretty impressed. We haven't been on a tangent in quite a while, but I got to mention this because that reminds me of Patriot Games, the book by Tom Clancy. Not the movie, but the book.
What happens at the end?
After the opening, that intense shootout in the UK and the assassination attempt and everything else. Jack Ryan's in the hospital, But then I think the Queen visits him in the hospital, and I think Princess Diana visits him. Somebody can check me on this, but I think it's separate visits. Princess Diana visits him to thank him, and the Queen of England visits him to thank him. It's just I stopped reading it at that point. I'm like, that is so stupid.
Jack, that's the same right. Jack, you did it. You saved all of us.
It really would have been like Tom Gordon's like, "I got a lot to learn from you, young lady." I mean, they could have easily done that. It could have easily been that. I mean, King didn't do it.
This is the opposite. It's the very beginning. The beginning of the movie in Transformers: Dark of the Moon. I think it's Buzz Aldrin plays himself in the beginning and thanks Optimus Prime. I'm not joking. He just shows up we want to thank you for it. That's so fucking dumb.
Thank you very much, Buzz.
Thank you, Buzz.
You're the real hero.
Freedom is the right of all sentient beings.
Well, speaking of heroes, let's move into a little space we call heroes and villains.
I'm gonna have to kill this fucking clown. Welcome to the Losers Club, asshole!
All right, and so heroes and villains is often where I talk about what characters I have crushes on, but there's not a lot of material there for this book. This is where
the bear.
Tom Gordon, the handsome.
That's right.
Handsome
He's the dreamiest man in the world. I also am into the wasp guy. I'm kidding. But let's start with the girl herself, Trisha. I had compared her to Jessie Burlingame. I think she is just she's a really inspirational little girl. My slight criticism of this is that she feels like she's maybe 11, not quite 9. And that probably sounds like I'm splitting hairs, but I do have a 9-year-old girl in my house right now. And she just seems slightly more mature. And it could be said that she's like Danny, she's just a genius kid. And I think, Dan, you mentioned that in our text thread, he's writing genius kids. And I think she's just a little older than her,
I think the exception. Oh, sorry, Dan. You want to go on that before I?
Oh, did I say the genius kid? Was that
you? Who did say genius?
I was.
Maybe Mike.
I had mentioned it because in the Shining episode from 18 years ago or whatever it was, we talk about how Danny at times
it's like a 40-year-old man.
Yeah, 40-year-old man.
That's more egregious for me. Yeah. I think that the one. The little bit of a defense I can say here is a lot of the times when she's exclaiming things out loud or even thinking things internally, as one does when you're thinking internally. Genius, Justin. I think even she says, "I don't understand what that means," but she's heard her parents say it. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of that is going on, as opposed to Professor Danny Torrance in The Shining.
Professor.
I think there's a
Torrance.
little different thing there, and it's funny to think back too, though, that when he wrote The Shining, his kids were, I guess at that point, much younger than 9, right? Or they were 4 or 5, maybe the oldest.
Yeah,
was,
they would be. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's pretty
but
early.
now
maybe Owen wasn't even born.
But now he's a decade or so decade plus beyond having kids who were 9. So once again, as opposed to just not having a 9-year-old kid, now he doesn't remember what his 9-year-old sounded like. You know, like,
he
can't win.
I do think with Danny, for me, it's more just his personality. Like he's so much of an old soul that it's ridiculous. Trisha to me doesn't so much in personality come off as older than 9 to me. But to your point, Jen, I'm thinking about my niece who's 8, my sister's kid, Jane, very smart, resourceful kid and everything. But like, I remember over the summer, I took her to the beach and we were walking back and we were with my sister, but my sister had to go home early. So we had to bring back all the stuff ourselves. So I was carrying most of the stuff. And I'm like, Jane, you have to carry your boogie board. Like, that's the one thing you have to carry. And Jane like couldn't figure out how to do it under her arm and kept like falling over with it. And I was like, Jane, come on. And she's like, I can't carry it. I'm like, no, you can carry it. Just like put it under your arm. And so, and once again, I'm not saying that means like Jane wouldn't be good in the woods, but I think there is like an awkwardness just physically at that age a little bit. And the one time for me where I can believe most of the stuff, I can believe that she would figure out most of this. The one time for me is like the cutting open the fish and like fashioning the knife. And that I was like, like, I don't think I could do this. And I'd probably just be horrible outside. That was the one time where I'm like, this just seems like too advanced. And especially if she's in a dazed mental state and everything like that. That was for me, like the one time where it went overboard a little bit.
Yeah. That scene, I'm like, what is she? Anthony Hopkins from The Edge? Like, I mean, how the fuck is she doing?
I've got the whole trailer we'll do later on.
I love The Edge.
Oh God, love it. Love that movie.
I think also that could also be, you know, when your survivor and kink, when your survivor's instinct kicks in.
You know how far you'll go.
You know, who knows what we're capable of. But I did have that similar note though, Mike and Dan, as I said.
Yeah.
I said, figuring out what berries and nuts to eat, gutting and eating a fish, coughing up blood, developing pneumonia near the end of her journey. I'd have died.
Oh, yes.
I would have died a couple days in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I wanted to ask. Like, when would we have died in this?
Well, how long is she out there?
9 days, 8 nights.
Oh, it's that long. Okay. Because it seems shorter because, I mean, I guess each inning is almost a day.
Yeah.
I mean, the fiddleheads thing. Here's the thing. I would have soldiered through and eaten more fiddleheads probably. I'd be like, all right, dead deer, that's scary, but whatever. I got to eat these fiddleheads. And maybe I would just stay there and die on that island.
Yeah.
Jen, I'm curious. What about you though? What can you gut and eat a fish at the age of 9? That's the real question.
Okay, so I went fishing in Alaska in college, and I caught a fish, and I was dating a guy who knew an who knew an Inuit person, and that's why we went. And they were like, okay, when you catch this fish, you're gonna have to crush its head with a rock, and that's like part of fishing. And I was like, okay, I can do it. I'm tough, you know? And man, son of a bitch, that fish like was too wiggly and it was too gross and slimy and I could not do it. So yeah, it was a personal failure moment for me that I still kind of regret. But I think like that, my survival didn't depend on that moment, you know?
There we go. Yeah.
Like, yeah. I really think, and I think about this a lot, like with haunted house movies, like, it's easy to say, just leave. There's a ghost there. But it's like your entire life savings is wrapped up there. And I think that's kind of the maybe like the older I get, the more I think, well, what would I actually do? Like, how far would I go? And I think I would probably survive. Like, if that hunter was there and if like that was the end point, I think I probably would make it, because what else do? You know, you just like at one point, Trisha's like, I'll crawl if I have to. And I think I might.
Well, I know like Mike's a real man, so he would have sought out that bear and eaten the bear.
No, first off, I mean, look, I would never be in this situation just because I'm really good in terms of remembering like where the breadcrumbs are for everything. In that way. Look, I'm in the Eddie Kasprak of this podcast. Like that, Eddie Kasprak is great at that. In the
got a compass in your head?
Yeah. Well, I do. Like as a kid, that's even my parents used to always say that. Like they'd say like, oh, we could drop Michael off in the middle of like Florida, which I'm sure they threatened they were going to do that multiple times because I was such a fucking bastard kid. But like, and then they would always say like he'd find his way back, and that's the thing that's with me is just like I just always have that sort of ability to just remember where everything was. Like, I don't know. I don't even have a photographic memory. It's just something I don't know. It's just intuition. Having said that, would die the minute I fell in my own shit. And I'd just be like, all
the stomach stuff. I was joking about the fiddleheads thing. Like, I think I could survive for a while, but I will say this, that, I mean, I think before we all got on mic, we were talking the last time we all puked, and mine, I haven't puked since 2016 when I got from my niece. So I just mentioned I got this really bad
Jerry
stomach
Seinfeld
bug.
over here.
I know.
yours. Causing problems.
But I got this really bad stomach virus from her when she was a little kid, and I puked like 7 times in like 12 hours, and my wife Susan drove me to this like walk-in clinic, and I went in there, they're like, you need to go to the ER. And I got back out and I was just throwing up again on the sidewalk. And I remember like going on my back in like freezing New Jersey winter and like literally saying like, just kill me, fucking kill me. And so I think like the stomach, I think the puking that much and shitting that much, that's for me when I would just be like, even before slipping in the shit, I think I would just be like, I'm done for. Like stomach stuff, I think it just like debilitates you so much. Like you can't do anything with it. So I think that's where I would probably give up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's
and then slipping in shit. Yeah, that's disgusting.
Slipping in shit is again because
you hate shit, Mike. I mean, we all hate shit, but Mike, you really don't like farts and shit and stuff, right?
I'm a germaphobe, like Eddie Kasprak. But like, if someone like I've seen people lose their limbs in person, like, and I've literally seen like blood, bullet holes, like just walking around is throughout my life or whatever. And I've always run and tried to like help. Blood and stuff like that doesn't faze me. And my joke is always like, but if someone shit their pants about to die, like I'd be like, all right, I'm out. Like there's something about fecal, like I just hate it. Like, we walk dogs a lot here now, and I still just like, oh God, like I have like a system for it now. It's ridiculous.
Not to date this podcast, but a show called Yellow Jackets. Jen, I know you've seen it.
Yes.
There's a scene that happens in that movie involving a bone sticking out of somebody's leg.
Ooh, yeah.
That for me is okay, we're done here. Like if it happened to me in the woods, I would have been looking for a way to like bash my head in because I would not have been able to deal with that sticking out and like having to be immobile.
Bash your head against a boulder.
Oh God. Cry out for the wasp god or whatever.
Yeah. Oh shit! I was gonna say something and I forgot what it was.
Was it something about shit and slipping in shit?
Vomit and shit and puke.
It actually was.
Bones.
I mean, because I think it's thematic. Like there is. It's been. I think the last time I actually threw up was when I was pregnant with my first child. Because I just tend to not puke too much, knock on wood. It's like when it happens, it's like your body can't do anything else. It's like you have completely lost control of your functions. And there's these stories, not to get too gross, but there's stories about like sorority houses with like just shit on the floor because you start puking and then stuff comes out the other side too. I wouldn't know from personal experience, and I don't want to cast any kind of aspersions on sororities, but and so there's that moment of like when she is puking and when she is shitting, it's like the woods has won in that moment.
Yes.
And she does keep going after that.
Her like the way I like feel so bad. This King does a great job of just like capturing what it feels like psychologically when you're doing that, because like in her head we see her just freaking out and be like, oh God, I can't believe this is I mean, I felt so bad for her in that moment, even though she's arguably not close to death there because she's not fighting a bear getting stung by wasps or whatever, but like I think that's where I felt like I just related to her the most psychologically, because you're like, oh yeah, it just feels like the end of the world when you're going through that kind of thing.
Well, it's the great combination of nature not wanting you to survive, because even after she's going through the vomiting and God, how many times are we gonna say vomiting and shitting and
vomiting,
episode?
shit,
hey, it's part of the course.
Yeah,
but hey, well, listen,
we're not even in pound cake either. We're just
the fact that after that bout of it, her body is telling her to get more water, even if it's from the same place. And that water is still like, no, this is not for your kind.
I like to the water.
So that's disturbing too.
And the water like tastes good to her too. When she's drinking, she's like, oh my God, this is the best thing. Yeah. I like what you said, Jen, but the woods. Yeah, that's when the woods win or whatever.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons why King gets away with so much of her resilience and being, like little mini Hopkins sometimes is because he really does kind of build her up as this pragmatic person. I mean, like even like the way that Trisha contends with the divorce. I mean, she's really pragmatic about it. Like there's this great bit on page 166, at least in my edition, where
is it the pop-up book?
It's the pop-up book, yeah. Page 166. Could you imagine a 200-page pop-up book? Like I'd be like, this is exhausting now. Like enough.
Yeah. Stop popping.
Yeah, like she basically talks about how like I don't know why we have to pay. She keeps thinking about the last line that she hears her brother and her mother, say before she's ultimately gone. Writes, I don't know why we have to pay for what you guys did wrong. That was the last thing she had heard Pete say. And now Trisha thought she knew the answer. It was a tough answer, but probably a true one. Just because. And if you didn't like it, take a ticket and get in line. And then she goes, Trisha guessed that in a lot of ways she was older than Pete now. And like, King does a really good job in that. I mean, like, she's the peacemaker of the family. I mean, she's the one that's like kind of sitting there and being like, early on in the book, she's like, could fighting in your family make you go crazy? Like, she's very, the only word I can think of is pragmatic. And I think that's one of the reasons why, like, when she's in these situations, like, I buy it a little bit more than maybe, I should if I think about an actual 9-year-old just wandering around in the forest.
I think in terms of her pragmatism, just the fact that she, from the onset, is very aware of how much time she should spend listening to the Walkman because of the battery life. Yep. I think that's just right there. I was like, okay, she's not just, I've got my Walkman, I'm gonna listen to the radio. So she's very aware of that too.
That's also
you could also ding it again as like, would a 9-year-old do this? But if you're
my 9-year-old would not.
Such a way, yeah, there you go.
My 9-year-old would be like listening to fucking Smashing Pumpkins or something on.
Smashing Pumpkins.
Yeah, big this Melancholy album is too long. I'm not gonna get. Yeah, right. I do.
Save me, Billy.
I want to hear Bodies again.
Rewind it. Track 2, tape 2. Yeah, but I right, is Bodies the second track? It's where boys fear to tread. Anyway, that's another podcast.
But that's for our Pumpkins pod.
I do like the Walkman being like a nice narrative ticking clock for the novel too, just of like how much time she has left and everything. So yeah,
well, she has also a sense of good. She has a good sense of humor, and she's also very imaginative. I mean, King literally states that she's an imaginative person. And it's telling that it's not until page 199 when she finally breaks and has like a tantrum. And at that point, it's totally earned. Like, I'm like, how did you not do this? I would have done it like finally like 4 hours in. I'd be like, you fucking idiot. Like, why did you do this? Why did you do this? This isn't fair. Like,
I would have been like Richard Lewis
like days.
The Wrong Guys. Talk about real deep cut reference. This Boy Scout troop reunites. It's Richard Lewis, Richard Belzer, Tim Thomerson, and Louis Anderson, and they reunite like 20 years later after they were Cub Scouts, and they go camping in the woods. And Richard Lewis is just complaining the entire time when he's setting up this tent. He's calling it like Hitler's cot and stuff like that. And that would be me in the woods, just constantly complaining about every moment. Like, I can't believe this is happening to me. I can't believe this is happening to me. That would be me.
And it's not her though, and that's what's so crazy,
right? Yeah, and like I keep thinking about bookends with this because it is just such an isolated arc, and I think it's really clear to see her transition because two of the places, and again, I kept thinking of my daughter, and that's why it was so heartbreaking a lot of times when she'll say things like, I think I'm going to die today, and she just says it, but the moment that she actually admits that she's lost is on page 33. She was suddenly drowning in isolation, choking on a bright and yet oppressive sense of herself as a living being cast out from her fellows. She had somehow gotten out of bounds, wandered off the playing field and into a place where the rules she was used to no longer applied. And then a little bit later, now the tears began to come. This is when she's finally said, I'm lost. It's like the words themselves, like she didn't want to say them. Now the tears began to come and she could no longer hold them back, could no longer kid herself that she was in charge of this situation. Her voice trembled, became first the wavery voice of a kid, and then almost the shriek of a baby who lies forgotten in her pram. And that sound frightened her more than anything else so far on this awful morning. The only human sound in the woods, her weepy, shrieking voice calling for help because she was lost. And then on page 239, this is the one that really broke my heart. She says, slowly, gingerly, like someone walking on a freshly rinsed tile floor, Trisha got moving again. This is probably it, she thought. Today's probably my last chance. Maybe even this morning's my last chance. I may be too weak and too sick to walk by this afternoon. And if I can get out on my feet after another night out here, it'll be a blue-eyed miracle. And just like the cold, like understanding of that, like for a 9-year-old to say, I'm probably going to die today if nobody saves me. It's just it broke my heart,
It's, I can't imagine it. I know you were saying earlier, Jim, but if you're a parent, of course you're going to have a different reaction to this, especially if you've got a child this age as the protagonist. So I can't even imagine being a parent and reading this. It's going to be a totally different experience.
Yeah,
for better
we're
or
not
worse,
going to be hiking with her on this vacation.
You're staying home.
Exactly.
She can go, but she's going to be standing in front of you. as
Yeah.
you guys are walking through the book.
Well, it's funny. Like the last time I was in Gatlinburg is when she was like 1, and I went on a hike, and she was in this like the carrier with me, which was real hot, and that was fun for like 20 minutes. But then we were like past a point of no return, and I remember walking across the stream and thinking like, "Oh shit, I'm gonna fall in the river, and I've got this baby attached to me." And it's just it does. And I hate to be that person. Like, well, when you're a parent, everything's different, but it is.
It is different.
It is different, you know. It hits in a different way, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't want to say like there's a level of this book that non-parents can't understand. I don't want to sound like superior, but, you know, I could not read this without seeing my daughter in the situation. Well, is there anything else we want to say about Trisha? And I've got a couple more things for word processor, but anything about her in general?
So I had a question. Like, I guess we could talk about the Walkman as a character, because I felt like the Walkman's like Wilson in Castaway here. Like even down to the way that, you know, when she finally loses it at the end, you know, and the batteries die, I almost kind of felt like it was like the scene where like Tom Hanks is like floating and like Wilson's like, he's like, Wilson, well, like I just felt like she was gonna like, you know, Walkman. Did anyone else feel that, or was I kind of just, maybe I just have Castaway on my mind for some reason?
I didn't. Like, I remember seeing Castaway in the theater and being really sad when Wilson went away. And the Walkman, I didn't have any kind of real emotional attachment to it. Maybe it's because Wilson has a face. I don't know.
Yeah, that's right.
And I guess he's with Wilson for years too, right? But I didn't feel like the sadness.
I felt in more of the Wilson role. For me, it was kind of the imaginary Tom Gordon, I guess. So who never actually goes away, as it turns out. Well, not really goes away. So, but I see where you're coming from, Mike, with the non-living, you know, object that she is some type of relationship with.
Well, there's an original chapter that King cut, I guess, where she like cut her hand and then just like, you know, it created a face on the Walkman, and she just kept talking to it, you know, like, oh well, this is gonna be a crazy hike.
You know what? Just talking about the Walkman there, I wonder how many people listening never had a Walkman. It's very possible nobody did.
I had
could have been
one.
on the CDs.
I had one too.
Yeah,
I had cracked a review on cassette. That was my first tape, I think.
My first Walkman, I think I had, not to sound like Mr. Uber, I was always cool, but I had Bleach by Nirvana and Nevermind by Nirvana. I remember having a Walkman and listening to those. I had tapes before that, but we listened to it on like the bigger boombox. But I remember going to, you know, 5th or 6th grade and listening to and like flipping the tape for side B. Because I am, and Jenna can attest to it, we are of the geriatric millennials.
We are, right? Yes. That's my favorite term.
We're at the cutting point, right? Are we at the cutoff?
We are, yeah. We are the most superior of the millennials.
You guys are 1980. Right? That's the oldest it can be.
1980.
We're with it, but barely. That's what we have.
Rothman and I are 84, right? So
84. Yeah.
We're still pretty old. We're pretty old for millennials.
We're still pretty old. Yeah. I mean, look, I got my Walkman when in my first cassette was Back to the Future, and that was before Back to the Future 3 or 2 even.
And you couldn't even walk yet. You were only a year old.
I know. I was just it was more like a crawl, man.
You couldn't walk, man.
Yeah. No, to be fair, I could walk, and I acted like such a loser because I thought I was Marty McFly. So I'd skateboard in my neighborhood with like the soundtrack playing on my Walkman like an idiot. And like
you could have stopped it. You were skating in your neighborhood.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
That's what makes me a geriatric.
Yeah.
Millennial.
The bear for you are a bunch of skaters.
Oh my god, I wouldn't have survived.
Yeah. I used to ride my bike, listen to Mariah Carey, but I would tape the radio station Y107 here in Nashville. And I remember I would tape the commercials too. Like I wouldn't stop it in between because I was like, I want to feel like I'm listening to the radio, you know? Wow. And now I think back and I was like, because I did end up fast forwarding. I was like, I don't want to hear this fucking
Wasn't that the worst though? Like,
yeah.
Isn't it weird that people have nostalgia for that medium when I'm like, no, it really sucked when you wanted to hear the song again and you had to wait like 45 seconds. Like, it's not fun. Like, you know.
Well, and then there's my little magical thinking. I was like, well, if I hear the song, it's a sign that so-and-so is, you know.
Yeah.
So that was
and there's a lot of that going on in this book too with, if X happens, then I'll be fine. So
yeah, which maybe can move us into Tom Gordon's, if you're interested. Because I do love the idea of getting the save, you know, and like it all really coming down to one thing. And I mean, I think the obviously winning a baseball game is less stakes than dying, but I think
what's the game?
Well, that's true. Yeah, you got to win your last game. But it's a really sweet moment at the end, and it always makes me cry when she just like points up, you know, because there's just so much in that motion. It's like I faced everything down, and I'm still here, you know.
I love the the description. I think it's one of the first times it says, it's from her point of view, obviously. He stood there in the moonlight, as clear as the cuts on her arms, as real as the nausea in her throat and belly, all those nasty butterflutters. He was stillness waiting for the sign. Not perfect stillness. There was that hand behind his back, turning the ball, searching for the best grip, but all stillness where you could see. Yeah, baby, stillness waiting for the sign. Trisha wondered if she could do that. Just let the shakes run off her like water off a duck's back and be still and conceal the churning inside her. When I first read this, when I first heard about it, first I actually did think it was a nonfiction book. And that was just about maybe his daughter liked Tom Gordon. I really just did not, I had no clue. And then when I read it for the first time, I thought this was going to be a two-hander. Kind of going back to, if I can get even more deep cut-ish, Tom Holland's script for Cloak and Dagger with Henry Thomas and Dabney Coleman, where he's talking to his imaginary hero the entire time. This book is not that at all. Tom Gordon appears here and there, but long passages before you see him. And when he does show up, it's not for very long. And I think that was another nice little twist on my expectations when it came to the character of Tom Gordon in the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of the way that Tom Gordon's employed here kind of reminds me of Johnny Got His Gun and the way that Jesus Christ comes in that book.
I have not read the book, but I love the video one by Metallica.
Yeah, well, first off, that story, you want to talk about depressing, go flip through that one during the holidays and see how glum you are in family functions. But yeah, it's that it's almost like a poster, like the cliche of like writers with the cat poster like hanging in there. Like I feel like that's what Tom Gordon is like for her. It's just like seeing, it's like, come on, keep going, like you can do this. But
Well, and I have one of the flagged passages I have, which kind of ties in, even though it is really about Trisha, is at the very end in her showdown with the bear. And it's on page 248, and it mentions that stillness again, which I think is really just coming to peace with what she can and can't control. So it's on page 248. Run, it said, as it came towards her, and this is her confrontation with the bear. Its big hindquarter swaying from side to side. It was weirdly graceful, leaving clawed prints behind and a scatter of droppings on the surface of the packed earth. Run, it's your last chance. Except it was stillness that was her last chance. Stillness and maybe a good hard curveball. Trisha put her hands together, coming to the set. The Walkman no longer felt like a Walkman. It felt like a baseball. There were no Fenway faithful here, rising to their feet in the Boston Church of Baseball. No rhythmic clapping, no umpires, and no bat boy. There was only her and the green stillness and the hot morning sunshine and a thing that looked like a bear on the outside and was full of wasps on the inside. Only stillness, and now she understood how someone like Tom Gordon must feel, standing in the set position in the silence of the cyclone's core, where all pressure falls to zero and all sounds are shut out, and it all comes down to this: fasten your seatbelts. She stood in the set position and let the stillness spin out around her. Yes, it came from the shoulders. Let it eat her, let it beat her. It could do both, but she would not beat herself, and I won't run. And I just love that. I think that is such a really beautiful way of taking this picture metaphor and bringing it into something that makes sense for like a 9-year-old girl facing down a bear,
Yeah.
And it reminds me of the moment in It when Bev has the slingshot, and she talks about like the world just like really becoming very small, and all you can see is the one thing that you really need to do, and just like taking that moment and finding the stillness in it, which I think is something I really wish I could do more in my days. Like, no, this is not, the world isn't ending right now,
Yeah.
Even though the world might be ending for Trisha, it's like you can find stillness sometimes if
again, that's what that concept of God, you just gotta keep that one thing, as Curly said. And I like that you brought up City Slickers, which I guess in a sense is a survival horror story in a way.
I mean,
tough crowd.
Yeah. Do we? I mean, in terms of the rest of the characters, like, do we think? I mean, like, probably could kind of speed around with some of them though, because I feel like it really is just mostly just Trisha. For the most part, I mean, like,
when even Tom Gordon's part of her, pretty much, right?
And and that had more to do with like the religiosity of it all too, which we kind of talked about in the hook, right? So,
I'd like to talk about Pete definitely, because he's an interesting. I know we don't see a lot of him, but I love. It's a good King trait to introduce him as this kind of terrorizing, mean older brother. But I feel like pretty right away, King also garners a lot of sympathy for him, because we learn how he's bullied at school and how this divorce is probably really taking its toll on him. He just felt like a very real lived in older brother that I'd met before, like the kind of guy who maybe you go to your friend's house and their older brother picks on you, but then you realize a couple years later, like, oh, that guy's kind of a loser and a very sad person too. You know, I don't know. There was something very realistic and kind of endearing to me about Pete, because I feel like I know that guy.
Well, again, this could have easily been, it starts off with them in the woods and here's mom and brother. Mm-hmm. But no, they're actual fleshed out characters enough to give you a sense of who she is and her relationship with them too.
Yeah, because I felt the same way with Quilla. Like I know mothers like that. I mean, I grew up in the land of single mothers, including my own. And
I don't know why that just sounded like the Island of Misfits, like some magical world.
Yeah. Or like that movie with
Welcome to the land of single mothers.
The land of single mothers, where everyone's drinking Long Island iced teas and talking about Celine Dion. But at least
it sounds like a pretty cool life to me. Actually,
it was a pretty cool life. Actually, yeah, no, but this very real, and just her. I felt really bad for her when she's just trying to find things for them to do. And they just, and like, you know, Pete is being such a little shit about it. And I understand why Pete's being a shit about it too, like you're saying, Caffrey. But I also understand the frustration that Quilla is going through, where it's just like, just give me a fucking break. Like, this situation sucks. I'm just trying to do something fun with you kids. Like, why can't you do that? And like, I don't know, there's so many times I look back with just my mom. And in the moment, you know, and the divorce definitely wasn't easy on either of them. And I always just kind of took it more pragmatically, like Trisha, where I was like, well, they suck together, so why the hell they should be apart? But I understood how hard it is to raise two kids when you're alone. And, you know, King didn't go through divorce, clearly. So I was kind of astounded at how well he was able to capture it here with Quilla, like in the little bit that we get.
Well, his mom, because I guess his parents were his parents technically divorced, or did his dad just like leave? I think
I'm not sure if his parents were ever married.
Yeah, I don't know, because his dad wasn't his dad like the literal like, oh, I'm gonna step out for cigarettes thing. And just never came back. Yeah. So I mean, he at least so he, although he doesn't have insight into the actual logistics and the process of divorce, he does know single mothers well, I guess, right?
That is true. That's a really good point. Yeah.
I really enjoyed the little bits we get with Quilla, and the moment that stuck out to me is like the waking up in the middle of the night and like having this kind of connection with her daughter, which I think is kind of a cliche thing that happens in a lot of movies and stories, but I think it's handled really well here. And the section that I really liked with Pete was when he has this dream and he's thinking about the moment where he turns back and it just gets stuck in his head, this moment where he turns back and he sees that she's not there. And that to me just is like the essence of kind of trauma, you know, and like, this is the moment where I realized that I had forgotten, you know, and this is a moment that is going to follow me, maybe because at that point he doesn't know what's going to happen. And so it's going to moment that will follow him for the rest of his life if she's not found. And I really liked the description of that. I think the only other character, and it's not technically a character, but I wanted to talk about kind of the woods themselves as kind of like, it feels like the ocean in a way to me, you know, and it's partly because I've just watched The Deep House, which is really spooky. It scared the shit out of me. Like, that is my kryptonite. But it's like this environment where she is not supposed to be, like what we were saying about the water. Like, this is not for a human's consumption in the way that our bodies have adapted now. And I think that's such a clear distinction. Like, when she finds something that is made by men or something that comes from the world of electricity, and it shows you how deeply immersed she's been in this totally natural world where she's having to just feel her way around where she doesn't belong. So I thought it was just, but there's still moments of beauty, which is foreshadowing for my word processor stuff. But
well, it's like, it's a playground for King, you know, or it's a playground for anyone who does a survival horror story or a survival story, because it's like, this is where you get to kind of ramp it up, or then you kind of, you know, get to escalate it, or you kind of get to kind of have some wins here for her. So as a writer, I just see like these type of sandboxes as just perfect, you know, like anything can happen in this because it's the woods. And like, the thing I love about King's descriptions of it is that you definitely get a sense that, like, yeah, he knows his backyard. Like, they're down to the plants, down to even just like when he goes and, I mean, has been the word processor, but like this, the section where she finds herself like within the posts of this like worn down area. I just imagine King has probably stumbled upon stuff like that, even though that takes place technically in New Hampshire. But I just, that sense of awareness of like his own world really comes through here, where it could have been so easy to be so farcical about it, but I really did feel like there was like a sense of place and a sense of history that he's getting on, even down to like the the plants and what have you. So
yeah. And he even mentions in the afterword, he's like, if Trisha were from this part of the woods, she would have known many more plants and roots to eat, and I like that he made that distinction too. He's like, this is the superficial things that someone like Trisha would eat. So yeah,
kind of a smart ass the narrator in a a little bit, It's like,
you try and do this.
Yeah. What's your problem?
It was the beach nuts, right? Because he's like, oh, she could have had more than the beach nuts had she not been that stupid town girl or whatever he said. So, yeah.
Right, she could have turned right there, and there's a lake right there.
She was used to concrete and cement,
God.
Well, let's move into. We just talked about a couple of things we did like. Let's kind of briefly talk about the stuff we don't like so much in our section called misery.
She died. She just slipped away.
Slipped away! Slipped away! She didn't just slip away! You did it! 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 You murdered my misery!
Annie!
And I actually don't have a ton of things here.
You go first, Justin. I have one thing. You go first.
Okay. This is an issue I also have with the ending of. Well, I have many more issues, obviously, with the Secret Window short story, the novella. But the ending when the man discovers Trisha during her standoff.
Yep, that's exactly what you go for. Yeah, that's my thing too.
There have been a few seconds in that frozen time when the girl and the bear had been regarding each other that he hadn't been sure, not entirely sure, that it was a bear.
I know.
But that he never told anyone. Folks knew he drank. They would think he was crazy. It's a bear. I don't like the fact that maybe it's a wasp. I just keep it totally. We've lived through her imagination, the imaginations of a 9-year-old, and where your imagination can take you. And now let's just have her deal with the reality of fighting off against nature. Like I don't need this little. Maybe it's a little supernatural. I did not like that.
That's that king. That king implicated. Implying
he's afraid. He's afraid to just make it what it is.
Honestly, my issue came from just not really loving that this random dude saved her, and I understand why, because I know it really ties into the Trisha, corresponding with the baseball game and knowing, okay, look, if I can get through this, I know something good will happen to me, right? I understand all that. I think for me, it's just, I feel like we gear up for this bear fight. And I know realistically, there's no way she could kill a bear, right? And that'd be silly if she did. But I feel like I'm even reading it the second time, I'm like, oh man, she's going to have to run or make it to the highway or figure out something, right? And then just the fact that it's this dude that fires the gun and scares the bear off, it just feels like a little anticlimactic to me. It doesn't ruin the book. I still think the very, very ending in the hospital room lands. It feels like it pales in comparison to the shit incident, which was so much earlier in the novel. So it squares thematically, I guess, the guy showing up. Like, it makes sense within what the novel's trying to say and what it's trying to do with her quest. It just doesn't really square with me from a narrative satisfaction standpoint, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it feels serendipitous too, and there are a couple moments in this book where I'm like, you could have just couched this and made it like less serendipitous. Like, early on, like the minute she turns on the Walkman, they're just the newscast about her happens to just happen. Whereas like, well, she was listening to the baseball game the whole time. Like, couldn't have you just weaved it in where they just kind of did a broken thing? But it's that sort of serendipitous moment at the end with the hunter seems so pointless to me, because it's like, well, you're already at the edge of civilization. So like, why do you need to have someone catch you? Like, and honestly, with the bear be a little bear, like, maybe have it be just the literal bear, but also allow the bear thematically be this concept of death, and how like she was staving off death this whole time, and the fact that she did get to stave off death, this bear, and managed to get to civilization, that's the win. Like, you don't need to have the hunter, you don't need to have this like wasp thing. Like, you could have the wasp thing be as her own sort of mind's sense of like her relationship to her own death and stuff. But yeah, I feel like that little section right before the hospital,
it's just a few pages too.
Yeah, it's like you get a little too crazy there.
I would even be fine, honestly. I would be fine if she sees the bear, she runs, she makes it across the highway, maybe almost gets hit by a car, maybe she looks back, sees the bear for a moment, almost like acknowledges something, and leaves. Or just, like, I'm fine with it, like with no one else interacting with the bear or whatever else. But yeah, it's just something about it's the guy is like a typical goofy king slacker, too, which is like sometimes funny, but here just it takes away from it a little bit.
Yeah.
So I hear what all of you are saying, and on some level of my own personal tower, agree with you. But this is another time when, to me, like another connection between this and Gerald's game, because I think that logically, yes, I agree. But what I get from her pitching is enough for me that I don't care about anything else for the rest of the book.
Doing the pitch with it,
exactly. Yeah, that's what I need, and that's kind of how I feel like at Gerald's game. Like I get all the criticism, I get it, but I fucking love it. All I need is that moment with her in the courtroom, and if I lost it, then it would take something away from me. So I don't mind that section, but I hear the criticism.
No, I don't mind the act of the gun, and then I love the pitch. No, I think actually what actually ultimately scares the bear off is the pitch to the head. I think it is the Walkman. I don't think he's necessarily scared away by the shot even.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But what my criticism is the vague, oh, is it actually not a bear? Like that's what I don't like. I actually like the climax a lot.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it.
I think what I'm saying is that is enough for me not to question anything else. I'm like,
I got you.
Okay, you're fine.
I
also am not one that tends to question the ends of things. I'm like, well, that's what it is, you know?
I mean, it's just classic King. I mean, he just loves loves to have his own. Because I mean, look, I have some room 237 about like what the actual thing at the end is, especially given the stuff that the little pieces he gives to us. But we'll save it for that. So then there's a couple other things. I felt like he didn't have to go there with on page 157. He mentions like it's but not her panties they would find with the crime scene. It's just like, well, this seems pointless as a thing, especially if it's a red herring. And then also like the little black Sambo like reference theme just seems so like I didn't really need to. I mean, I guess it doesn't age great, but like it just felt very like we get the image of it. It just seems like you kind of overdid it a little bit for me. But that was it.
That was on my list, and I kind of was internally struggling whether to mention it or not, because I think if he had just mentioned it once, I would have let it go. But he does keep coming back to it, and he also so in my day job I do a lot of like research about like the origin of folk history, and a lot of the American folk songs have a history in blackface minstrelsy. And A Little Black Sambo is a piece of that. And for a more like detailed description of that, I would highly recommend the You Must Remember This series on Song of the South. It's really, really good. A lot more detail than I will be able to give. But he also does something similar with Buffalo Gals in the coda to the Stand miniseries. So it is something that's continuing to come back. And I think we just need to we have to be more aware of where the origins of things like that come from if we are content creators. And if King, if you're listening, I love you, you're fantastic, but do a little.
Yeah, I think he got lost in the weeds of trying to, because he's referring to the Kipling story, right? And specifically called Little Black Sambo. I think, but I don't think he would have written that.
No, exactly.
I don't think he would either. Yeah. But I also don't want somebody who's not aware of that history to get that reference and continue to use it.
Oh God!
Yeah.
My favorite part was with the Little Black Sambo illusion.
I have a collection of the Just So stories, the Kipling one from when I was little that I loved reading. I still do. I mean, I like a lot of those stories, but that one specifically, I mean. And this isn't a kid, like the collection I have is geared towards kids. The Kipling version, he says the N-word and it's not censored or anything. When I was little, I just never noticed, I guess. But like I reread it a few years ago, I was like, whoa. And it says I think it says on the front, oh, Just So stories for 7-year-olds or something. And I'm just like, ooh, yeah, Kipling, you went too far.
Yeah.
The good old days.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I do think it's worth saying that was a different time, and I don't think if Kipling were alive today, who knows what he would be writing. But that's how we keep moving the conversation forward, and I do think it is worth mentioning. So. Yeah. Well, do we have any other misery?
I've got some minor miseries.
Okay.
#minor misery.
Ooh.
Nice.
This isn't so much misery, but it's just I totally get the bands that King's referring to. Boys to Da Max.
Oh yeah.
Wait, say it again. What was it? Boys
to Da Max.
Oh.
Is it 2 like the number 2?
It's not the number 2, to be fair.
Oh,
it's
come
T-O.
on.
It's T-O. I guess it's a combination of Color Me Bad with the extra letters and Boys to Men.
Yeah.
But the lyrics, Put Your Arms Around Me because I gotta get next to you, were absolutely lyrics from somebody around that time. It was a tough time.
I had a tape single of Color Me Bad. I can't remember the song, but man.
I Adore Me Amor.
That's
the
it.
second single.
Mm-hmm.
I think
and here's something else as a sports fan. the fact that I discovered later on that the Red Sox hat that Trisha's wearing was signed by Tom Gordon. There's no way in hell I would ever wear out something that was signed.
I agree. That was my that is a gripe.
That's no way.
No way.
I still have in my closet. I used to wear this Charles Barkley jersey when I was a kid all the time, and he actually signed it when I was in 8th grade. It's been in a plastic bag ever since. I never wore it out again.
Mm-hmm.
Never,
Did you meet him?
Oh yeah, it's a couple times. Very nice. Long story, but yeah, very nice guy.
I'm just imagining you like a little Justin getting lost in the it's the boy who loved Charles Barkley, and you just see him.
Barkley would have been like, I'm not a role model.
I know.
Think about like somebody who's like a frontiersman or something.
He's just insulting you the whole time. He's like, "Oh, you shit your pants, you little boy, or you little fucking baby, you shit your pants." He's got his big suit on. He's got his like oversized suit on, just like berating you in the woods.
Does she get a new signature though? Like, do you think
that goes back to what I was saying? The nightmare epilogue would have been her meeting Tom Gordon and saying, "Hey, I heard you lost your hat. I heard your hat got a little messy.
Oh, I see.
Another one for you.
See, this is smudged a little.
Tickets. You know, it's like, oh, everybody just keeps going, clapping more and more, and you think that's good. Season tickets for life. Oh my god, this is unbelievable.
Yeah. This is like
that's the nightmare ending.
This is adapted by like Buena Vista Entertainment in like 2000. Like the ending is like her like in the stands, like with her parents and stuff. Like the parents got back together.
No, I was gonna say,
and like the parents show like their ring fingers.
I was gonna say like he's like, now I'll give you these season tickets on one condition. He looks at mom, dad, you need to kiss and make up. And then it cuts up at the game. Yeah.
And it cuts to the very end, like it's like a big shot of the stadium, and then like the wasp god swings by, like waves and winks. It's like
you see them all in the jumbotron together. Oh, it's us!
We met to the game. Anyway, sorry, I digress.
Ridiculous.
Again, but there you go.
Yeah, the pop culture references are all over. Like, I mean, he has like Tub Thumper. I usually
wait. Now, is this the case where the album is called Tub Thumper and the song is Tub Thumping?
Oh no, it's Tub Thumping. Yeah, but does he say Tub Thumper?
Well, so he says Tub Thumper, but it's italicized, so it might be one of those things where like the album. You know what I'm saying? Like the album's called Tub. Oh, let me look this up real quick because
I'm looking it up. Don't worry, everybody. The album's called. Hey Dan, the album's called Tub Thumper. The song is called Tub Thumping.
So King was right. He actually got that right then. That's good. Yeah.
Good job, King.
Yeah. And then, there's like Bop. There's like 3 references to Titanic. I mean, these are all King just like kind of taking in the pop culture. The one thing that I do really love about his writing sometimes when he gets into pop culture is that he's able to kind of wield in his own sort of point of view and criticisms and opinions. And he certainly does that with baseball in this. Like we usually have a section, or Brandon and I started kicking around the idea adding this into King's Dominion, just being a king being king. And I think we did it on Billy Summers, but just the idea of that, like you could tell it's just King's opinion in here. And like when he talks about like the handsome but evil shortstop Derek Jeter, you just know that's like him as a Red Sox fan. Or like Satan Joe Castiglione, like talking about Darryl Strawberry and everything. Like those are all Kings. Just like that's his probably internal thinking when he's like listening to baseball, radio announcers and stuff like that.
Well, with the pop culture, Jen, I think you mentioned it back at the beginning, but you mentioned that the games that that Trisha's listening to didn't actually happen, right? I think you mentioned that.
Yeah.
That they fudged with the history a little bit. Mm-hmm. So it is interesting though. It's a different where and when, obviously, if we want to go really kingy with it. But the fact that Boys to the Max exists in the same universe as, Chumbawamba, and Titanic exists in the same universe as these fake Red Sox games is pretty interesting to me.
But that's
it's a Berenstain
I think
thing,
I think Flieger needs to incorporate this into his Dark Tower.
Dark Tower detour.
Side
well,
pod.
I mean,
detour.
Just rereading Wizard and Glass right now. It does get so confusing with all these different parallel universes because they encounter the events from the stand, but it's a stand that's different than the one in the book, right? Because it's a stand where like, and because what isn't like one of the Kansas City baseball teams is it's not the Royals, it's something else.
They
It's
got
not.
And or something.
Like on one hand, it's kind of cool. On the other hand, you're like, oh man, you're just giving yourself carte blanche to like do whatever the hell you want, like with all these.
Well, it's like Prometheus, where it's
I was just gonna say, yeah, that's the perfect comp for this. Is that it's like why overcomplicate this? Why don't you just make it that?
That's all I got, Jen. That's all I got. Nothing really miserable for me with this one.
Yeah, the only what pop culture reference that stood out to me, and I kind of have a love-hate relationship with it, is that's so VC Andrews. It was like, and then it sent me down this rabbit hole of trying to figure out when I first read Flowers in the Attic, and if I was 9 or if I was 10. So it kind of like I didn't really.
I know that we were probably too young.
Oh, definitely too young. I think most people are too young to read VC Andrews.
I read the first 3 or 4 actually. I was very much what
But you
at my
can't
age,
stop.
like, oh
yeah.
my God, this is really disturbing.
I remember seeing that as a kid, and they have a shot in the movie with wonderful trumper Tracy Swanson that
We
stars
wish
in
her the
it.
best
But,
in a full recovery.
Full recovery. But there's a shot that I remember has stuck with me even now. It's like an afternoon sunset, and you see like 3 graves prepared for the kids. And I remember as a kid being like, "What the fuck? Like that's really disturbing." Like it's like an image that has always stuck with me. Movie's okay though. It's not
Also, a
great.
whole lot of incest in those books.
Yeah,
versus the
great.
movie.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like, it's hinted at in the movie, but in the books,
It's like a brother and sister who fuck each other in the attic, right? Is that what it's about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little.
As one does.
It's a little more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little more complex and nuanced.
Dan,
than that.
It's several generations of that
yes,
in
please.
essence. Yes.
show respect to the disturbing incestuous family.
I just remember her
Right.
books were always in Publix. I never knew what they were about, but it was always like the front was like a mirror, and then you would open it, and then there was some.
Yep.
It was some like what do they call that? King has that on a couple books too, like the Lissy story thing.
Oh, you
Or
you take the hardcover back and it's
yeah,
like
with hers it was
animated
always
throughout.
like a mirror though, and you open it and you see brothers and sisters fucking each
fucking
other.
or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, always good to read that while you're waiting for your like public sub to be made.
Hey man,
But I think
Exactly.
you see like a person looking out a window, and you open it up, it's just some woman or some kid actually taking a dump and having vomiting in the woods,
Oh
Yeah.
God.
like your love Tom Gordon.
It's a little scary for me, but you know.
Okay, sorry. Anyway,
Well, speaking of VC Andrews, let's move into a section we call Word Processor of the Gods.
And we're gonna make a new rule. Whenever I'm in here, you hear me typing. Or whether you don't hear me typing, what the fuck you hear me doing in here, when I'm in here, that means that I am working. That means don't come in. Now, do you think you can handle that?
Yeah.
Fine. Why don't you start right now and get the fuck out of here?
And this is where we share the sections that we do like, and the things we do love about this. And where I drank my bottle of Surge a while ago, so maybe let's share a couple. Does anyone have anything they would like to share?
I'll just say that you mentioned this one earlier, Jen. It's the open to the book. The world had teeth, and it could bite you with them anytime I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that's honestly a great life lesson.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. I've got a couple more, but we can go around, obviously.
Okay, Mike, you want to share one?
I mean, the opener is just amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
I think we talked about that too. Yeah, it's like the slingshot opener that we just literally just mentioned. I think when you get into, I don't know, like there was I mean, the ending is fucking great.
Mm-hmm.
I think on page 201, I already hinted at it before, but I think it's worth reading because it's just really well done. So thinking. Trisha turned fully north, walking along the east side of the marsh that sprawled across most of the valley's floor. She had done a great many things right since becoming lost, more than ever, she would have guessed. But this was a bad decision, the worst she'd made since leaving the path in the first place. Had she crossed the marsh and climbed the ridge, she would have found herself looking down at Devlin Pond on the outskirts of Greenmount, New Hampshire. Devlin was small, but there were cottages on its south end and a camp road leading out to New Hampshire Route 52. On a Saturday or Sunday, Trisha would almost certainly have heard the burr of power boats in the pond as weekenders towed kids on water skis. After the 4th of July, there would have been power boats out there any day of the week, sometimes so many that they would have to weave to avoid each other. But this was a midweek in early June. There was no one out in Devlin, but a couple of fishermen with little 20-horse putt-putts, and Trisha consequently heard nothing but the birds and the frogs and the bugs. Instead of finding the pond, she turned north toward the Canadian border and began walking deeper into the woods. Some 400 miles ahead was Montreal. Between it and her, not much. Like that's like King at his best when he's just doing that sort of that flex of just like she's fucked.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I love that. Like, I mean, I said before, but I literally put the book down and I was like, oh, like that's so good. It's just great writing, I feel. But
Yeah, I agree.
And sorry, my fucking dog is munching on a bone in the background. I'm trying to get him to stop. So imagine it's a bear crunching deer bones, and it'll be more evocative. But speaking of the bear, this is on page 206, so toward the very end of the hardcover first edition. I won't read the bear description because we went into that with the maggots and all that stuff, which is great. I actually really love the voice of the bear, which we only get a couple sentences from it, but this is after she sees it and sees all the insectual life in its face. It says, I killed the deer. I watched you and drew my circle around you. Run from me. Worship me with your feet, and I may let you live. I love that because sometimes I think when King does die, I mean, that's not dialogue. It's more like the bear's thoughts out loud. But sometimes when King does direct address from the point of view of the villain toward the hero, it can go on a little long and get a little silly, like Pennywise does. I mean, we always joke about like like Richie's dead rock and roll circus where he just keeps going. But I love that because it goes back to this thing of I've been watching you. I love that I like drew the circle around you. There's something so simple and ominous about that. I feel like when we come to word processor of the gods, I tend to really favor King's stripped down sentences like that, because sometimes he tends to overwrite, and he doesn't do that in this book at all. And I think that's a good example of that. Just like a really good streamlined, ominous quote from a villain. So yeah, that the whole bear sequence, aside from the hunter, really struck with me.
Dan, if you like that, you should check out on Twitter. There's an account called A Bear, and it's just thoughts of a bear.
Wait, really?
And it's very pure. Like, today I walked through the woods, and it's very pure.
So it's not the Tom Gordon bear. It's just a bear.
Just a bear.
Lowercase A bear.
I mean, we don't know it's not the Tom Gordon bear.
It could be.
Maybe he's because we don't know how evil the Tom Gordon bear really is. He's just could be a bear. He
just be a bear that's hungry.
Listen, I don't care what this drunk says in the book. It's just a bear.
Cool bear. Yeah.
And it's hungry.
What about maybe it's Jacques Anod's The Bear?
That's a good movie, man.
I
I love that movie as a kid. I
too.
It's kind of in line with this book. Doesn't the mother bear, she dies because she's trying to get like a beehive on a cliff and she falls. It's so sad. Yeah, it's very I love that movie as a kid.
Yeah.
Really
that happens in Winnie the Pooh as well. It's very tragic.
yeah.
I just found a movie called The Grizzly Maze or something, and it's got James Marsden and Thomas Jane fighting a grizzly bear. So I think that's King's Dominion.
What is this?
Yeah, it's
on
wild.
Netflix. Yeah. I was what the fuck? Where has this been? It's pretty good,
Yeah, they totally couched that one. I remember stumbling upon that when I was sick like a few months ago, and I was just like, holy shit, how the hell did I miss this? Like,
I know.
Everyone is in this movie.
Billy Bob Thornton's in it. Yeah. I know.
King Legends.
Right, exactly. Speaking of, I don't know, legends, I wanted to read the section about the beavers.
Yes, I love that. I had that down too.
Yeah. I loved it. And it's longer, but I'll just read one part. 10 or 15 minutes later, she was standing on the half-submerged roof of the tree in her filthy unraveling stockings and looking ahead, both wondering and puzzled. Beyond the straggling line of broken trees where she was now, the bog opened out into a flat, stagnant pond. Running across the center were more hummocks, but these were brown and seemed made of broken twigs and gnawed branches. Sitting on top of several and staring at her were half a dozen fat brown animals. Slowly, the lines on Trisha's forehead smoothed out as she realized what they were. She forgot all about being in the swamp, about being wet and muddy and tired, about being lost. Tom, she whispered a little breathlessly, they're beavers. Beavers sitting on beaver houses or beaver teepees or whatever you call them. They are, aren't they? She stood on tiptoes, holding the trunk of the tree for balance, staring and delighted. Beavers lounging on top of their stick houses. And were they watching her? She thought they were, especially the one in the middle. He was bigger than the others, and he seemed to Trisha that his black eyes never left her face. He appeared to have whiskers, and his fur was a luxuriant dark brown, shading almost to auburn around his plump haunches. Looking at him made her think of the illustrations in The Wind in the Willows. And I just love that. I have recently moved a little bit outside of Nashville, and it's much more rural, even though we are in a neighborhood and we're not like cut off in the country or anything, but I see animals a lot more. And I was telling my team at work, and my boss was like, yeah, there's something like really magical when you just see a deer, and it just that moment, I just loved it. It's like, it's beavers, and she's like in the process of starving to death. And it's just this moment of joy that she finds in this like huge, scary wilderness that I just loved. And it reminded me a lot of The Body too,
Yeah. There's a lot of body illusions in this for sure. I even just tried to read that last section like Richard Dreyfuss, so hopefully I pulled it off. Yeah.
I was in Stand By Me. I've got, speaking of like short, succinct, I like this one. Trisha discovered what thousands, perhaps even millions of men and women before her have discovered. By the time it gets too gross, it's often also too late to go back. Yeah. And so there. I've got a couple more, but if anybody else says anything else,
I think Jen. I think we share. Well, you have one that's above on the same page as mine, which is I had one on page 164, where she talks about on the far side of the rushing stream there was a little clearing carpeted with pine needles. Sunlight fell into it in bright yellow bars filled with slow dancing pollen and woods dust. Butterflies also played in this light, dipping and swooping. Trisha crossed her hands on her belly where the whirring was now still and watched the butterflies. In that moment, she did not miss her mother, father, brother, or best friend. In that moment, she did not even want to go home, although she ached all over the place and her butt stung and itched and chafed when she walked. In that moment, she was at peace, and more than at peace. She was experiencing her life's greatest contentment. If I get out of this, I'll never be able to tell them, she thought. She watched the butterflies on the other side of the stream, her eyelids drooping. There were 2 white ones. The third was velvety dark, brown, or maybe black. And I don't know, it's just good. It's like when he writes about like the more beatific parts of life, like, man, King does it better than anyone else. It's just it's so good. Like it's what Shawshank is all fueled by. And
I think we often talk about how most of the time in word processor we're not doing dialogue, we're doing the descriptions of nature or the inner feelings, you know.
The section I have that is right above on that same page was, it was wonderful to be full. She had lived 9 years without knowing that, and she hoped she would never forget. It was wonderful to be full. I just thought that was so nice little moment, you know.
I've got during the climax, there's this great line: the woods lay silent all about them, breathing their sour, urgent scent of green. I think I love that.
That's good.
Like you can smell it when you read that, you know.
I was thinking too, because I know are any of you Ramsey Campbell fans at all? The British horror writer. I know Randall likes him a lot. I've read a couple of his books, and they're good. I do enjoy them, but something, and not just him, but this comes to mind with a lot of other horror writers who aren't King. Sometimes when I read descriptions of woods or even the violent acts that are happening or monsters or whatever else, I just can't get a clear idea of it. Like, it's very good prose. It's very eloquent and kind of windy and everything, but I just can't get the clarity behind it. Like, I can't actually conjure up what it actually looks like. And I think King is so good at doing that, just in describing trees or bears or violence. Or like, I've been thinking about that a lot. Is that even Dennis Etchinson, who I also really like, I feel like there's something more surreal and impressionistic about all those guys. I like how King just describes it both very majestically, but also very straightforwardly. It's very a true gift, in my opinion.
It's very Hemingway. You know?
Oh yeah, no, yeah. Those other guys are Faulkner. King is Hemingway.
Everyone knows my.
I will not stand for any Faulkner slander.
Hey, I like Faulkner. I still like Faulkner.
Don't be. I gotta shut my mouth.
Mike, don't let Mike get started. Well, Mike, I'll give you Hemingway. You've got to give me Faulkner. That's how it works. That's how this works.
I like Cormac McCarthy.
I'll take V.C. Andrews.
Hey, Jen, I'm with you on V.C. Andrews. Though.
I like Cormac McCarthy, who I think started off as Faulkner and became a Hemingway as he got older.
I agree.
I can see that. Yeah, but I think it's positive both ways.
Yeah, that's true. We get a huge fight over just like
old white authors. Like all these how dare you slander Cormac and
right.
Anyway,
anybody have? I've got one more, unless anybody else has one.
I think Jen. I remember you near the beginning. I think you read a lot of the final page. Did you do the last paragraph?
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
that's so good.
It's great.
Great.
And just with the game over, I love that. Yeah, it's perfect.
Such a good button. Yeah.
Well, the last one that I wanted to read is on page 164 or 176, and it relates to the beech nuts. And it's when she's just talking to the berries and the beech nuts, and she says, she paused. Thank you, she told them. You're the best food I ever ate, you know. And that just was so sweet. Aww. It's such a childlike thing to say, you know. But like, and I think she earlier describes like, I'll never be able to express this to anybody else, you know.
Yeah, that feels like a truly 9-year-old thing to say. Like I could picture me saying that. Yeah, just cool.
Well, she's still trying to figure out how to hold carry things.
Right, exactly.
The boogie. I know.
That's totally my daughter too.
She's listening. She's like, why did Uncle Daniel insult me like this?
Yeah, right. He keeps talking about how I get sick and give him viruses and
I can't carry a boogie board. No, I mean the boogie board thing was very endearing because I was just like, oh, you're still a little kid. Yeah, it's fine.
Well, I'm sure at one point on the beach you'd like turn around and she was like, 18 years old holding the boogie board, and you realized that you're at the beach from old. Yeah,
classic. M. Night Shyamalan's
classic.
Yeah,
modern day classic.
God,
game over indeed.
Yeah. Speaking of the best thing I ever ate, let's do pound cake.
Ooh, yes.
After all you've been taught, everyone isn't bad, Mama. Everything isn't a sin. Come to your closet and pray. Ask to be forgiven. He's a nice boy, Mom. You like him. You really like him, Mama.
And this is the juvenile humor, the gross stuff, the passages that make us giggle. Like I was going to say 13, but I'll say 9 and keep it thematic, you know?
Yeah.
Did y'all, so I did, because pound cake, I always try and pick stuff that just makes me kind of cringe too. And there wasn't so much in this because I think there's not a lot of sex, obviously, and rightfully so, because it's about a 9-year-old. And then when it comes to the blue, shit humor, whatever else, because it was so harrowing, it wasn't funny to me. I was like, oh, I feel so bad for this girl. I guess there were a couple times, what did she say? Like shit on a shingle or something?
Well, I think
kind of
for
laugh,
me,
but yeah.
But there was in my spirit and heart, pound cake can also incorporate just things that make you gross you out.
Yeah, that's
right.
Oh,
so
totally.
I do have something here. Just the use of words here is really strong. Talking about obviously when Trisha's having her, let's say it again, shitting and puking event. King writes, she voided what seemed like a huge quantity of weak acid. That is so
voided.
Oh, and it says, and it continues on. It hurt her down there, hurt with a deep, itching sting that felt like the worst case of prickly heat she'd ever had. I mean, that is absolutely
accurate too.
Yeah, he's just so good at choosing words there. That it's like it's like the Pines thing. It's like you can feel it.
Yeah, the
when
green.
You read that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah, the only thing I had was the poop stuff, and
I mean, she passes gas. I guess that you kind of have to put that in there.
Yeah, that's true.
It seemed a little superfluous. It's like the earlier when I was talking about like the mentioning of like they at the crime scene they won't find the panties. It's like, cool.
Right.
All right. Then, all right. I guess that has a relevance. But yeah, it just felt like if he could get a toot in there, he's going to do it. So
a toot.
A toot.
I can't. I'm still. I know we're not going to be there for a while. I'm still so excited to get to Under the Dome where the old man's getting beat up and is farting because it's such a depressing scene. And I'm like, why are you adding these farts in there? Anyway,
we've referenced that so many times on this podcast too, because I feel like that you mentioned that like I think one of the first few episodes, and there was a recent episode. I mean, I think it was Billy Summers' the episode when Randall mentioned that. It was like, oh, Caffrey's gonna go nuts when we get to talk about that character.
Yeah, I know.
We always bring that up.
Well, and he makes a point to talk about how he's like an old professor, and he makes a point to talk about how big his dick is too. And so it's like this weird, like these like young townies are kicking the shit out of him, making him fart and commenting on how big his dick is. It's so, I don't know. It's so, I love that book. It's so funny.
We have a lot of talented tech savvy listeners, and I would love for somebody to do a compilation of King clips from movies of like violent acts happening and inserting like fart noises. Like when Annie cuts off or when Annie hobbles Paul, like it's the if you add like a fart noise when he gets in,
like the Blazing Saddles type farts.
Yes, over the top Foley work, like so fake. That would be really funny. Or Gage gets hit by the truck, I mean, it's like a long fart.
It's like, oh my
God. I am dying thinking about this. Or the teacher and Carrie scream, Carrie, no! And then the awning.
Oh, the thing falls on her.
I'm sorry, we're going. This is.
Oh my God! Have you seen that Amy Schumer sketch where, like, when she's screaming, she farts every time too, and that's how the killer finds her in her house? She's hiding in the closet. She can't stop farting.
That thing would trend so
funny.
fast, and I wonder, I feel like King would probably retweet that. Honestly, like I think he would think that would be like one of the funniest things ever. But
I mean, maybe that's how we get him on the pod.
Yeah, that's true.
I
really liked
the fart cut.
It's like, I tweeted y'all a couple months ago, but this was unbelievable. I had to come on. I had to come on for this.
God.
And I'm just laughing at everything. It's so endless. Like just seeing like Silver Bullet, where like he gets to put the baseball bat. You're like,
Did someone mention Halloran from like Just Shining when he gets hit with the axe?
Oh no!
This is what I'm saying.
After Thomas Jane shoots his kid in the mist.
Oh my God!
No, all 4 bullets. Okay,
we have. And he opens the car door and just like a wave of cloud.
We went almost 2.5 hours. It was like this eloquent conversation of nature and childhood and sports.
Hey, we're in Pound Cake, man.
Baseball.
That's Pound Cake.
You know what? That's right. We are in Pound Cake. Oh my God.
Well, speaking of terrifying farts, there is a place where farts go to die, and that is the cemetery.
What's the bottom of the truth? Well, sometimes that is better. The person you put up there ain't the person that comes back. It may look like that person, but it ain't that person. Because whatever lives in the ground beyond the pet cemetery ain't human at all.
Well, I'm not going to ask what would happen if you buried a fart in the pet cemetery because that is section.
Yeah, last night we did some theorizing about the Micmac burial grounds in the Thanksgiving
That's
episode. So
Sounds like it's a fart cemetery.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. We don't know that it's not. This is where we talk about the stuff that scares us so hard that we pass explosive wind. So would anyone care to?
Reading this, I just absolutely, it's not even a specific exact extract from the book, but that part that ends with her passing out and the mosquito sucking on her eyelids.
Oh, it's disgusting.
When she falls down the hill.
Oh my God.
That was nasty.
And then waking up to just knowing that she's going to wake up just with itchy eyelids is just is crazy to me.
You teased some bug stuff earlier, Justin. Do you have some bad bug stories?
Well, first of all, growing up in Florida, there were really bad mosquito eras down there. We had there was a really nasty virus going around, not like the stomach virus that Dan's relative gave him, but there was a really nasty virus where one Halloween we couldn't go outside and trick or treat. We had to go to the mall. Because in Orlando, there was this really bad case of mosquitoes going around.
The West Nile, or was it?
I think it might have been one of the Niles.
Okay.
North, east, south, or west, one of the Niles. And so I've always been very anti-bug. Hate them. But I also had, a few years ago, it was a minor case ultimately in the grand scheme of things, but I had like a bed bug situation. It's hard to explain what that's like unless you've gone through it. Mm-hmm. The itching and that. So just imagining that, like just little mosquito bites all over her eyelids is absolutely, that's what I'm talking about how just keep this with the horrors of nature. Don't have to incorporate, well, maybe it was somewhat supernatural. Mm-hmm. Nature can be terrifying on its own.
And I think too, because that's like the first really horrific thing. I mean, she gets lost and she's freaking out about that, but then the bugs is kind of the first really, I'd say, horror sequence that happens in the novel, and it's a great way, I think, to usher us into that. They also too, this isn't about bugs, but it's using language that's applied to the mosquitoes to talk about plants. There's a line about like the bramble like drinking the blood from the back of her neck or something. It's about like her getting scratched by a bramble, but something about the way he describes that was so freaky. For me, I know I mentioned it before. It's the finding the deer carcasses and the deer parts, and then and just talking about something watching her. I mean, it's a very simple scare, but very effective. Also, too, when she realizes that the fawn she just found is probably one of the fawns that she saw in the woods, is like both scary, but also very heartbreaking to me too. Like she sees this thing of beauty, and then it probably gets killed by the bear. That was the one I wrote down. We can stay on bugs though too. If Rothman, do you have bug stuff?
I don't have any bug stuff. I have mostly just like terrain that I think he does a really good job at. Like we talked about how the woods were a character, and I talked about how like the woods were like a sandbox for him. And I think like the different terrains that he explores throughout the woods here,
like swamp and marsh, and
they really stuck with me. Like I always take little images. I talked about this on the podcast a lot. Like I always take little snapshots, kind of like like preview images on folders on a computer. And there are a couple here in this book that I can't shake even like a week later. One is when she finally gets to that like dead area, and it's on page 111. With that done, she looked around and saw she had come to a kind of ghost woods. The site of some old fire. Ahead, and already around her, was a broken maze of long dead trees. The ground in which they stood was swampy and wet. Rising from flat pools of standing water were turtleback hummocks, covered with grass and swashes of weeds. The air hummed with mosquitoes and danced with dragonflies. Now there are more woodpeckers tack hammering away, dozens of them by the sound. So many dead trees, so little time. And then later, King describes it as, there was nothing to eat here. It stank of mud and rotting trees, and who knew what other gross stuff here. It was ugly here. It was a bummer here. It came to Trisha that if she stayed here and no search party came before dark, she would be spending the night here. It was an awful idea. The little crescent-shaped clearing had been Disneyland compared to this. And it just scared me. Like that whole being like already lost, but then also being in a place that's, it reminded me of like almost like Dante's Inferno when you keep going from like one level to another, and it's just like gets worse and worse. That whole section, I was like, I just want her to get out of here. I don't want to be in this section. Like I was getting like claustrophobic almost reading it.
Yeah.
No, this Disneyland is just when Tower of Terror was still there, not when
the Guardians of the Galaxy
right took over, which is also a nightmare. So
Yeah. What's the swamp in the Neverending Story?
The Swamp of Eternal Sadness or something.
Yeah,
God,
that's
sad.
Kind of
One
of my.
It's eternally sad.
Atreyu. Oh.
It reminds me of like the Boneyard and the Lion
there.
King. Speaking of Disney,
the Elephant's Graveyard. Yeah, thanks.
Circle of
Graveyard.
Life.
Yeah,
Circle of Life. I've got something here. This has to do with when she's really starting to hallucinate towards the end of the book. Great visual image here that I can definitely see in the movie, which I'm sure we'll talk about shortly. From these trees hung the mutilated corpses of 1,000 deer, a slain army of deer crawling with flies and bulging with maggots. Like that image is just startling. And obviously that kind of comes off of what you were talking about earlier with the beautiful deer that she finds dead in the woods too. Just that being amplified. That's just such a 1,000 deer. That image of 1,000 deer hanging like that is just startling.
Well, one of mine was the hummocks when her foot goes in and it takes her shoe. And I won't read it, but when she reaches in and she says something alive pressed against her hand and went away, that just, it gave me the creeps. I don't like wet lake swamp
sucking
shit.
Yeah.
Well,
that creeped me out too because it reminded me of Rooney from Ferris Bueller when he loses his shoe, and then it made me think of Jeffrey Jones, which is a horror story in itself. But,
I thought you were talking about the band Rooney, which I like the first album.
Yeah. God.
I did want to talk about the thing in the woods, because I think some of this passage is really, really good and creepy. On page 97, is that what? Yeah. The unreliable moonlight had changed the shapes of the trees, had turned them into bone faces with black eyes. The sound of two branches rubbing together became the clotted croon of a monster. Trisha turned in a clumsy circle, trying to look everywhere at once, her eyes rolling in her muddy face. It's a special thing, Trisha, the thing that waits for the lost ones. It lets them wander until they're good and scared, because fear makes them taste better. It sweetens the flesh, and then it comes for them. You'll see it. It'll come out of the trees any minute now, a matter of seconds, really, and when you see its face, you'll go insane. If there was anyone to hear you, they'd think you were screaming, but you'll be laughing, won't you? Because that's what insane people do when their lives are ending. They laugh and laugh and laugh.
It's perfect.
Well, speaking of that bear, I think I don't know if one of you mentioned this earlier in a longer excerpt. Please stop me if you did, but I think it's the first time we get that there's a creature out there. As she slept, something came and watched her. It watched her for a long time. It was not until light began to line the horizon in the east that it went away, and it did not go far. Good ending to a little section there too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that actually reminded me of because I had that written down. Then I thought of the scene when Michael Myers is staring at Linda and Bob on the couch. It's like dun, 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 dun. Like that's the image I got out of that, which is just
just a shadow being right there, staring.
This bear wearing a giant shape mask.
Yeah,
it's Michael Myers.
It's actually Michael Myers
in a bear costume. It's like Michael Myers wearing a bear.
I don't know. The bear in this could probably fit into that giant mask from the 5th movie.
No, that's true.
I mean, he's everybody's
giant house.
He's everybody's Bergy man now.
Nice. Nice.
That goes in the misery section for this bout.
I feel like mosquitoes just started feasting on my eyelids. Listen to that.
Well, I had one more section I wanted to read, and it is about the bear. Nothing. It's on page 186.
Yep.
Nothing. Oh, did you have that one too?
I have this one too. Go for it.
You go for it. I already read the other one.
No, you go for that because I have another one that I want to read after it.
Perfect. Okay. Perfect. All right. Nothing. No sound but the soughing of the wind through the pines, and then a grunt, low and soft and not even remotely human. Trisha stood where she was with her arms around her fragrant, sappy load of branches. Her skin broke out in little hard bumps. Where had that grunt come from? This side of the stream? The other side? From the stand of pines? She had a horrible idea, almost a certainty, that it was the pines. The thing which had been watching her was in the pines. As she harvested branches to cover herself with, its face had been perhaps less than 3 feet from her own. Its claws, the one which had torn into the trees and ripped both deer apart, had perhaps hovered within inches of her own hands as she bent the branches back and forth, first splintering them and then breaking them. Trisha started coughing again, and that got her moving. She dropped the branches in a helter-skelter pile and crawled among them without any attempt to create order out of their jumbled chaos. She winced and moaned a little when one of them poked the place on her hip where she had been stung, then lay still. She sensed it coming now, slipping out of the pines and finally coming for her. The Tough Tootsie's special thing, the wasp priest's god of the lost. You could call it whatever you wanted, the lord of dark places, the emperor of understairs, every kid's worst nightmare. Whatever it was, it had finished teasing her. It was all done playing games. It would simply tear away the branches beneath which she was cowering and eat her alive.
Oh, it's terrifying.
I know. That's like the scariest. That's why it's scary to be alone in the woods at night. You know?
Yeah. Your mind plays tricks on you.
Yep.
The similar to that, that's like later on, and I don't mean Stephen King's later. On page 225, King writes, in its glare, Trisha saw something with slumped shoulders standing on the far side of the road, something with black eyes and great cocked ears like horns. Perhaps they were horns. It wasn't human, nor did she think it was an animal. It was a god. It was her god, the wasp god, standing there in the rain. That just the thing standing there, like that's where my mind would go to in the woods. If that, especially at that point when I'm like, emaciated and just fucking iron deficiency and all that other crap. I know I'd probably see like all these shadow figures wandering around everywhere. Ugh, it just gets me.
Well, and we didn't read. Well, I don't have it to read, but just the description of the wasp priest when he lowers his mask and it's just like a swarming face of wasps. It's just,
Yeah. The wasp scene itself, when she stumbles into it, reminds me of a movie I just recently watched on Shudder, Rituals. When they have a very,
I like Rituals.
awesome
That's
scene.
good.
There's a good wasp scene in that where it really kind of puts things off, tips things off into motion where you're like, oh, everything's fucked. So yeah.
Speaking of the wasp, my boy, the wasp god, the wasp priest. We didn't really talk about, but this is kind of eerie, that dream or that hallucination she has of the three-hooded figures, which isn't necessarily scary. It's definitely unsettling because you get the white-robed Bork the dork, who kind of looks like her science teacher, I think, or an old science teacher from her school.
Yeah.
Who's a guy of Tom Gordon, and the white-robed Larry, who looks like her father, basically. He used the sub-audible. And then the black-robed thing from the woods. I come from the God of the lost that has been watching you, that's been waiting for you. It is your miracle, and you are it. It's like, that's pretty effective. That was creepy.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
And if maybe that can lead us into our next section, which is King's Dominion.
There's another world out there. I know there is.
Because in a lot of ways that reminded me of Insomnia. It's like the like when the sub-audible steps back and is like, no, here's the wasp god. Like it's his turn now. And I mean a little bit because it is November. It's like the ghost of Christmas the ghost of Christmas yet to come. It's like I can't do the sub-audible. It almost feels like he's saying I can't do anything more. And I know Christmas Carol is not King's Dominion, but
And all the rope figures had scissors too. No, they didn't.
They did. I mean that. What they did though. Well, we mentioned Castle Rock, so that's an easy one. And then Trisha's puking place reminded me of Annie's Laughing Shack in Misery.
I've got some good ones, and I've got some absolute in honor of Mac not being on this podcast. Some great room.
Some room 237.
Yeah, I got more 237, but
237.
Go for what small ones do you have though?
Okay,
like
there's a lot of talk. There's a lot of talk about marshes.
Bev Marsh.
Oh, I mean, she is a girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's Full Dark mentioned twice on page 77 and page 234.
Mac classic right there.
Yeah, a total Mac classic.
Did something about the way she was saying shit on a shingle out loud after something bad happened? I don't know why. It reminded me of Georgie going, "Oh shit," and Shinola and it before he gets killed. I mean, that's just like a stylistic common thing, I think. The bear, this is a big one. I mean, the bear reminded me a lot of Shardik with the maggots and everything. Yeah. I mean, I thought I was wondering, I'm like, oh, is this an indication that this is on the beam of the bear maybe a little bit? Like just because Shardik has, the thing is with this bear, we don't know if it actually has maggots in its mouth and whatever else, right?
Is Shardik, I'm trying to get the geography right in the Dark Tower 3 especially, is he in the northeast?
Oh man, that's a good question.
Dark Tower detail.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. I'll test Fleeger. I mean, Shardik's technically a fucking robot too, so
but was once a bear.
That is true. Yeah, he's become corrupted. Maybe we're seeing him, pre-corruption. He's having a little jaunt in our world before he goes back to Midworld.
Oh my god.
Well, if we look at the animation, it's missing an ear too, and this whole time we just never picked up on it.
Yeah, it's like so explicit. Wild. Yeah.
Maybe it decided it was not going to be afraid of Walkmans anymore. It was going to become the Walkman itself. And
technology.
He's turning into a giant Walkman.
Oh, what's this thing?
Yeah.
Back at the very end, it sneaks it away.
What about the? The wasps are obviously a big thing, and another.
The Shining.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Am I making it? Is there something with like a wasp god in misery, or what's the thing at the isn't he seeing Annie as
The bees.
Oh, it's bees,
The bees in misery.
not a wasp. That's
Which
right.
I mean, the wasp's nicer little brothers.
Yeah.
So I just looked it up, but oh, never mind. It doesn't say where Shardik is from. Bummer.
Midworld.
Trisha at one point screams out "Booyah!" Booyah Moon.
Ah, that's a good one. Good catch.
Story.
Well, they do talk about the moon quite a bit too. So MMON.
They keep singing the jingle to 1-800-54-GIANT, and I called the number and it still works, and it is.
Does it really?
It is a glass company.
Oh
It is a
wow!
glass company.
Wow,
that's awesome. That is
Good
awesome.
plug for them. Jesus.
Yeah.
God, I wonder how much business they've gotten over the years from that.
I wonder.
specifically.
Yeah.
We should
Featured
get 'em
in
on
the
the pod.
Girl of Tom Gordon.
I found one on page 171 where it's the three hooded figures. I can't remember which one. Where he says, "The skin of the world is woven of stingers, a fact you have now learned for yourself. But beneath there is nothing but bone and the God we share. This is persuasive. Do you agree?" And I think there's another character that says this is persuasive. But what that reminded me of is Judd talking about the soil of a man's heart is stonier,
Yeah.
And I feel like the woods in general remind me a lot about the woods in Pet Sematary and just kind of the unwieldy mysteriousness.
I can see that.
Of them.
I like that.
Page 188, Grandma says that, and then
Wait, what
this
is it,
kind
Mike?
of Grandma.
Oh, like grandma from
Yeah,
spelling
like-
from the short story.
Exactly. Yeah, this from Skeleton Crew, and
Love me, Grandma.
and then this kind of maybe leads into 237, but on page 224 that says it was here, and it's also on 236. So, do we want to maybe venture into 237, room 237, and kind of share some of our theories, or
Yeah.
What about room 237?
Room 237?
You're scared of room 237, ain't you?
No, I ain't.
Mr. Allen, what is in room 237?
you could make an argument, I feel, and I apologize, Justin, if this is jumping on yours, but you could make the argument that the bear or the wasp thing is like a Dandelo Pennywise type of thing, in a way.
And this is and that's that's what I don't like. If that's the
I know
case, I'd be like, ugh, why?
Because that's what I wondered. Like, why would he specifically say that you feel like he does that even in later. He kind of hints at that.
I think though, Mike,
things.
because it caught me a couple times too. I think Jen, you mentioned it earlier too. I think when he's saying it's like when you capitalize he and him when talking about God.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that might be the what he's going for there with the spelling.
It's the royal it.
The royal it, yes.
Slinger and I talked about this on the Dark Tower Detour episode about how it's sometimes I like the mystery, but sometimes I'm like, man, just clarify it. Just I don't want to be wondering, oh, is this flag? Is this Pennywise? Is this that? It's like, no, just be straight with it, So I've had that similar feeling sometimes. I mean, I don't know if that's what he's going for here. Maybe not. But like, I always do think that of like, well, either not everything always has to be connected in that kind of way,
Yeah. What did you have, Justin?
Oh, I've got a lot more. Some are. Let me just knock out these lame 3.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, Shardik was really the one I had.
At 10 o'clock in the morning in early June, she was sitting in the back seat of her mother's Dodge Caravan. 10 o'clock, people?
She is a people that is 10 o'clock. Yeah.
The side of her face where the stump of branch had poked her was bleeding again, too. Not fair, she thought. Not fair. Gage?
Oh, that
No
sounds...
fair.
That's
Yeah.
Does Gage say that in the book, or is that just in the movie?
I think it's just in the movie.
Yeah.
Maybe it's in the book.
Maybe it is, yeah.
King wrote the screenplay.
Yes.
Oh,
that's
course,
true.
yeah.
It's King's Dominion, for God's sake.
Good call.
There could be quicksand, she muttered. That's right, the cold voice agreed at once. It sounded amused. Quicksand, alligators, not to mention little gray X-Files men with probes to stick up your butt. King's Chinga episode would have aired 4 months before the events of this book. I wonder if Trisha watched the episode and what she thought.
Oh, sorry,
maybe.
but did you just say alligators?
I sure did.
Gators? Like later gators?
Oh, later.
Stephen King's later.
God, a minute. Featuring
Right.
Pennywise the Clown, maybe.
That's true, yeah.
Maybe Pennywise.
Yeah, I think he rides an alligator in that one, doesn't he?
Yeah, he goes right into New York and says,
All right.
like was it Gina Davis at the end of Beetlejuice?
I do have
With the
two more that are actually pretty cool, and I think that they could be deliberate, but fun, but not annoying Easter eggs. This is not like Blue Milk and Rogue One. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So it's when Trish is listening to the game and Tom Gordon gets the save, the last line the announcer says is the Red Sox win 5-4 over the Yankees and Tom Gordon gets his 18th save. You could say that that would make Trisha's 19th save.
Oh, yeah, that's deliberate, I think.
And then here's a good one. So when she enters the trail with her mom and brother, it's said that Trisha is 97 pounds. And then it says the girl who came blundering half blind up a piney slope and into a brushy clearing 7 days later weighed no more than 78 pounds. 97 minus 78?
19. Man.
Wow, that's
cool.
actually
pretty
nice. All right.
That's pretty freaky.
Way to
pretty
go.
Good. Pretty good.
So
Nice.
the only other one I had was, does the mother have the shine? I mean, because you could make the argument that like she literally wakes up when she's in trouble. She has that sort of connection, and even the brother kind of has some sort of weird thing. But I think it's more of the mother that actually has it. Like we recently discussed on a Bag of Bones episode, which you can listen to. It's with Anthony Bresnikan. We tried to list all the characters that might have the shine in King's Dominion.
Right, yeah.
Would we add her in that, or do you think that's just too much of a mother's intuition?
I mean, in The Shining, he talks about how all mothers have a little bit of the shine, especially when their kids are younger. Or like, I mean, I guess you could extend that to say when your kids are in danger. So, I mean, I think I would add that.
Doesn't Halloran talk about Wendy specifically? He's like, oh, your mother. I think she has a little bit of it. Your father probably not. Yeah.
At this point, I feel like everybody's got the shine in.
Yeah.
Well, that's
we all shine on.
Well, and it's funny, like there was a deleted chapter where Pascal actually comes and visits and hails down the truck and kind of
He's like,
alerts.
hey, I just got dropped off. He's been wandering the wilderness in truck drivers, passenger
just making a
seats for the
couple of
last 30
wisecracks.
years, 20 years, 10 years.
In my previous life, I was a cross-country runner. Now I'm a cross-country walker.
Oh, I love Pascal.
What if
I'm
like
the girl who loves him.
I'm just glad that, like, if we could have gotten some really disgusting pound cake. You said that there weren't any sex scenes. Like, it could have been easy to just like have like a couple of True Knot members just going at it in the woods or something like that.
Oh yeah,
She's
my favorite villains.
Trisha came across an RV that was mysteriously shaking back and forth, and animalistic grunts were emitting from inside.
And also, of course, a lot of farting going on too.
Yeah,
oh,
exactly.
Of course,
what's the grandpa, whatever his name is, can't hold his
Grandpa
fudge.
Flick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't come a knocking was painted on the side in airbrush.
I apologize. I just had to bring in some more scatological humor. But
no, what's funny is that I used to think the word scatological meant jazz-like it meant like free forming and freewheeling. So I'm pretty sure there's some album reviews from like mid 2000s that I used the word scatological in, probably incorrectly. So
and now you know it doesn't mean jazz-like. It means
shit like
ass-like.
Exactly.
Sorry, I apologize to everyone. Well, it looks like we finally found a road, and it does not, luckily, have a RV with old vampires doing it. So I know, that's for the sequel to the sequel. So let's hang out by the post for just a minute and each share our final thoughts, MVP, and nose ranking for The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon.
Dad, can we go now?
You ready?
Yeah, we've been ready for an hour.
Okay, I'll be right there.
You said that a half hour ago. Yeah, my dad's weird. He gets like that when he's writing.
Dan, would you care to kick us off?
Sure. So I'm going to go ahead and give this 4.5 bright red Pennywise clown noses. I almost want to go for a 5, but I mean, my kind of, baseline for all that as well. If I give like Salem's Lot a 5, then, and I love this novel too, but I mean, Salem's Lot is so big and so hefty and like really hits all my King buttons. And like I said, I'm left wanting just a little bit more from the ending of this, but I still love it. I love how internal it is. It feels like a true turning point for King. I love that he writes. I mean, even though I don't necessarily believe all the things she does, I do like that he writes the voice of a 9-year-old girl so well. I think it's an improvement over something like Danny Torrance. So yeah, strong 4.5 for me. I mean, I know it's boring, but the MVP, it's got to be Trisha. I don't know who else it could be. I love the bear at the end, but I mean, this is about Trisha. And once again, that's what makes this novel unique, is that's King getting into the mind of a 9-year-old kid so well. So 4.5 bright red for me.
Nice. Justin, how about you?
Dan, to echo you a little bit, if I give something like Salem's Lot and Carrie 4 out of 5, I can't go there with this. So I have to say it's definitely a good book. It's a 3.5 out of 5. Bright red Pennywise clown noses for me. Terrific, human versus nature element. I loved kind of getting out of the supernatural for, that I hope is getting out of the supernatural. It's a bear. It's not
It's a fucking bear.
It's a bear. Just a lot of trimming of the fat that I think really started to overwhelm a lot of Latter-day King books over the last 25 years or so. Look, I love baseball. I'm a sucker for baseball. So that also, the constant analogies with baseball did not hurt my reading experience at all. Just a good, and for King, breezy 300-page book. That, we didn't really talk about this, but I think if Lynn Ramsey's still attached to this, could be a really, really great Stephen King adaptation.
I agree.
And
Yeah,
this
I'm
director,
so excited
she did,
for it.
We Need to Talk About Kevin.
What's the
she
movie with
did-
Joaquin Phoenix? That's a great movie.
You were never really.
Oh God, that's
So it'll be interesting to see her, because she can obviously tackle the darkness, but it will be interesting to see if she does go with the kind of hopeful nature of it and sticks with the ending, which I think she would. I don't think she'd get too grim with it, But
yeah,
I'm really looking forward to seeing if she's hopefully still attached and does that movie. So yeah, 3.5 out of 5 for me.
Nice, Mike.
Yeah, God, I can't wait for that movie. I actually just was looking for news on it, and there's nothing yet. And I'm just like, come on. I'm hopefully, like, now that the pandemic's, winding down, like, we find more productions going into, because I feel like it wouldn't take long. We could probably get something out by fall if they've shot early next year, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, as for this book, I think, brevity, that's often King's sharpest flex, and I think like Tom Gordon is one of his breeziest and most digestible novels to date. I mean, I could have easily swallowed this thing whole in like one sitting, but fortunately for my sake, I kind of kept it like Trisha, like with her tuna sandwich and bottle of Surge. I rationed this. Rationed.
I think maybe
rationed this read. Yeah. Well, I gave myself a few nights in the woods, so I like and I appreciate that, because I really don't feel there are any lulls. I think this is to quote Sum 41, all killer, no filler. And for a story about a girl who wanders throughout the woods, I think it's kind of ironic that the book itself never feels like it's wandering. And I feel like King really knows where he's going. I never feel like I'm lost within the prose. I think it's tightly wound. I think it's swift enough to avoid any unnecessary tangents. And we all know, as we talked before, like King could have easily fucking done that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it ends with such a smart kicker. Like, it's one of those kickers that when I got there, it was kind of like I felt like Robin Williams at the end of Good Will Hunting, except that I would have said like, damn, why didn't I think of that? Like, how did I not think of that? Like, of course it was going to end there. So I love this book, and I originally was going to go 4.5, but now, having like with Justin talking about the point of view and how if we didn't pivot over to the parents, I kind of think that's a better book, and I really do want to see what that book would look like. So I think for that, I'm going to go with 4. 4 Bright Red Pennywise Clown Noses. Maybe I'll put a Talk Boy in there instead of a Walkman, because that's what I used more, like the Home Alone 2, Talk Boy. So
That
yeah,
is the one
love
good
this book.
part of that movie.
Yeah, seriously. And Tim Curry. Tim Curry's not too bad.
Oh, that's
in
true.
that,
That's
but
true. Yes, yes.
Speaking of Pennywise.
So I'm going to give it 4.5. I just love this book. Again, same thing. Like it's hard for me to give this 5, but I absolutely love it. I do think of it as Gerald's Game Jr. It's got, like, when I think about the Eclipse books, they may not be my favorites, but they are the ones that really have my heart, and this one I feel like really does. I want my daughter to read this book in a couple of years, and I think this is something maybe we could read together. And it's just beautiful. It's really empowering, but simple and restrained, and I think it's just gorgeous. And I also love the woods, and I think the description of nature here and the description of God, I find really, you know what, fuck it, I am gonna go 5. I'm gonna give this 5.
All right.
I talked myself into it because I just love it. So yeah, that's mine. And Trisha, of course, is my MVP. Hard to really give it to anybody else,
Trisha's. It's a unanimous vote, much like Shohei Ohtani got for the Angels winning the MVP this year for the American League. So how about that?
It's got to be Trisha.
Factual for you.
Yeah. Well, and I dare say our trip has been a little more successful than Trisha's. But before we call the last strike, let's wrap up just briefly with some plugs. Justin, where can we find you online, and what's coming up for Halloweenies?
Well, I'll tell you, we got a couple Halloweenies here with Dan and Mike, and a constant guest of the Halloweenies family, Jen.
That's right.
We are wrapping up our season. I can't believe it. God, we really are wrapping up our season on Scream. It's our 4th season. We just did our Scream 4 episodes, plural. That will be Mike, will it have come out by the time? Yes.
Yeah, it comes out tomorrow.
Okay, cool. So you'll have heard at least our first episode, maybe even the second. But also definitely check us out on our Patreon page, which is patreon.com/HalloweeniesPod. We've got a lot more horror coverage that tend to not really have a lot to do with horror franchises, in addition to a number of really, really fun, not taking ourselves too seriously, but still being quite informative commentaries that can be found there as well.
Yeah.
Nice. And yeah, Dan, you were going to be on some of that Scream coverage too.
Yeah, I'm on Scream 4.
You...
Scream that's the only Scream I was on this season, so I'm excited. My schedule is kind of all over the place earlier, but yeah, we had a really, really awesome conversation about that.
Yeah. I can't wait to listen to this.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. I'm getting very excited for the new movie. We also just
and are y'all going to do it like with all 5 of you on for Scream?
Yeah,
5?
I think that's usually what we do.
Yeah.
We'll have like for Halloween Kills, we had all of us on. It was, in my opinion, maybe our best episode. I don't want to. It
was a lot of fun.
It was a good one.
It was good.
Great movie too.
Yeah. Hey, I think it was, but that's a topic for another podcast.
Yes,
we've
Halloween Kills podcast.
We've got one of our Patreon episodes coming out for the rental, Street Trash, which was fun to revisit. Yesterday we recorded that. I think that's about it for me coming up. Yeah, you can find me, DanCaffreyWrites.com, DW Caffrey on Instagram. I almost said Instagram. Instagram and Twitter.
Like Trisha over here now.
You can find me over there, so reach out and say hi. Yeah.
And you can find me at Jim Ferratu, and you can also find me co-hosting the Psychoanalysis podcast, where December is going to be body dysmorphia month.
Ooh.
So stay tuned.
I like. I'm like, ooh, yeah,
there.
like what a fun topic.
Sounds
great.
Well,
no,
and
what,
I mean,
what are you covering, Jenny? Are you able to
well,
say?
we're going to have tonight. We're recording our episode on Thinner, so there's the King connection, and then Mike is going to join us for. Should we say what the movie's going to be?
Yeah, just go for it.
Go for it. We're going to do Black Swan for our second.
That's a good one. Yeah.
So I'm excited about that. But we're also covering Bride of Chucky for a comfort horror episode, and Carnival of Souls, which I hadn't seen yet. So
terrifying.
Yeah, I still have not seen that. I need to.
The original, not the remake. The original.
Oh yeah. So
God, they remade that.
Yeah, I think it was I think Charles Band remade it in the 80s or 90s, maybe.
Bad idea, James.
Yeah, bad idea.
It's perfect. It's perfect.
Well, and Mike, what's up next for the Losers Club as we close out the year?
Well, we get a lot of flack for taking a lot of time between book episodes, and rightfully so, I guess. But look, we like to go on different paths.
Yeah,
we'd be done if we didn't do that.
I know we
right,
would be.
exactly. Yeah.
But we're going right into Hearts Atlantis, and you're getting 2 episodes in December. We're going to be doing a Stephen King Archives episodes that's tangential to that. We're going to go back into King's Garbage Truck, which is his college column. So keep things thematically there. Otherwise, we haven't finalized the schedule yet for December, but rest assured there will be more, gifts to unwrap.
I'll just say I'm not on the Hearts and Atlantis episodes, but I read that for the first time less than 10 years ago, and from what I remember, I was very moved by most of that book.
Yeah.
So I am looking forward to hearing what you all have to say about it. I really like that book a lot.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Very unique collection. How they do the collection of stories. They're not disparate stories.
I think that crew is Mac, Randall, Flieger, and maybe Anna.
Yep.
I think. Yeah. Yeah. So that'll be a fun that'll be a good 2 eps. Yeah.
You definitely need at least 2 eps. Yeah.
Well, and that's our episode on The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. Listeners, thank you so much for taking this hike with us. Thank you guys for talking about this fantastic book. And we will see you soon over long days and pleasant
nights.
I got some hot friends. God, I got some hot friends. I got some hot friends. God, I got some hot friends. But you know you want somebody to treat you good.
This is the end of our show. For now. We hope you enjoyed this production. If you like our programming, consider searching for other bloody disgusting podcasts, such as Creepy, Horror Queers, The Boo Crew, SCP Archives, Nightlight, Margaret's Garden, and more.